Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my one and only co-host, full of Christmas cheer, to bring Warhammer news to all the good boys and girls of the world. Hey, what's up, Tyler? How you doing?
Howdy, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. Today, we're going to talk about the last season of General's Handbooking. We're going to talk about specifically what went wrong. A little bit about what was right. There was some good stuff in there, too. And we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this one.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, why don't we start with the news? Hit me. What do we got?
News. Rumor engine, 40K, of course. I'd actually seen on Twitter that apparently this rumor engine is already out in the wild.
Well, it
That
is definitely a 40K thing because it's a Leagues of Votann axe that already exists on the Leagues of Votann models.
I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So more Leagues of Votann, I guess. So definitely a 40K thing since they're showing us an image of a thing that literally already exists. Well
Yep.
done. Next.
Bull King Boxing Day miniature.
Yeah, man.
Hold it.
Look at this guy on
Yeah.
his chair.
Yep.
What do you think of this mini?
Love it. Yeah. How that mini is connected to a rumor engine image that, if I recall, is over 900 days old. Something insane.
979 days old when it was revealed.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
No,
right.
fantastic miniature. I know
Super
a
cool.
lot of us. Yeah.
So yeah, dig him. Great. So yeah, this will be available between the day after Christmas and January 8th, I think, in stores. So
Wait.
yep.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get a few more new things with Flesh Eater Quartz next year,
One can
go
hope.
along with this
We
this
have
fella.
full confidence the book is coming. Like it just makes sense as because it's we got those two death books coming. So let's hope this is a sign of additional ghouly friends to come.
And let's see, what else do we have? We had their MetaWatch article, the last of the year. Take a look at that one.
Yeah.
Anything interesting from that article?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of interesting numbers in this one, right? Because this is the year look back. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
And so I've got the image up on screen for everyone. And so, doing a full year over year comparison, they have the sort of percentage change over the year, right? This isn't going to give you the perfect image because this doesn't necessarily best represent like everything that's happened in between and all the life that's gone on in the faction in between there. I'm not sure about that Heat Knights of Slanesh number. That is to say, I'm not sure 44% represents a plus 17% increase. So I feel like there might be a little bit of a challenge with the data there. But that being said, some of the stuff is obvious. Like things that got new books or got love heaped upon them by, articles certainly have accelerated.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. It's like overall what it tells me is it's not bad. A lot of armies are pretty decent. They're in the band, right? As their current rolling win rate would suggest.
Yep.
That's a positive thing. The game is in such a great place right now, and we're laboring under one of the worst GHBs that's ever been written. So that's
Interesting.
unfortunate.
Okay.
As a little
We'll get
preview of my opinion
get
on
in.
this particular
Yeah,
one.
yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like every time we look at this image, right, we say the external balance ecosystem is the best it's ever been.
Yeah,
Because it is.
because it
It's
is.
awesome.
It's absolutely fantastic. Like I look at this and I think to myself, yeah, this is like most of the people you wanted to see went up, and most people are right in the band. In fact, a lot of people are really in that. Like if you make it even tighter,
Yeah.
and bring it down to 48 to 52, which is like a really, really tight zone, you actually still get, of more than half of the armies on this list. Right. And that's obviously not the goal. The goal is 45 to 55. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, man. So you were to come up with like, what's the overarching story behind this data? What are potential narratives? Like one comes to my mind is if I think about past ecosystems, past environments, right? We've had more skew of a particular play style, let's say.
Okay.
Power projection, range damage, always being good in Warhammer. Whereas when I think about this ecosystem, I think that's been better balanced out by mobile melee, something like that, right? It's not just
Sure.
melee armies, but yeah, highly mobile armies, right? Iron Jaws, Blades of Corn, even Magakin of Nurgle. There's a lot of those that are out there that have been competitive as a counterbalancing factor to the ranged output. Anyway, that's
Yep.
one that comes to my mind for why we're seeing this kind of data.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is more meta than that, not to make a joke on Meta Watch. But my answer to your question is very simple. The game has gotten more balanced because there has been a strong, concerted effort by a lot of very good people within GW on making this happen. And you can see it through both from the MetaWatch article we're looking at right now, right? The fact that they are so aware of these things and have built this massive data set, APIing out all this data to pull it in real time constantly so they can watch and spot for problems. You can see it in the battle tomes and the quality of the tomes that are written for 3.0, and the generally sometimes you have some internal balance issues that are fairly decent still. Although even those have been getting hammered down. But even when we have some decent internal balance issues, we're not seeing the same external balance issues. We haven't seen a 3.0 tome launch and look like Zinch at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. That just hasn't happened. Right? That just busted sideways from the rip. It just doesn't happen. Right? So, and then when there are problems, they've generally been addressed pretty quickly through, certainly by the standards of how that we've known everything in the past. I mean, it's not a video game DLC or anything, let's be clear, but it's pretty quick, all things considered, right? And so I think that yields that as well. I mean, that's basically what it tells me.
No, good point. Yeah.
So, and mixed into that is certainly an emergent property of what you're talking about, or of that, is the fact that, yes, there is no one dominant play style, right? That sort of emerged. There's no big shooting bad guy that's just good at killing everybody else, or no 2019 Slanesh and Flesh Eater Courts way out of balance melee monsters, with no proper scissors to their paper or whatever, right? So,
Yep, pretty sweet. So moving on, Rencrack the Great, if I'm saying that right.
I think so.
I'm guessing this is a new war scroll that I haven't looked at yet.
It is indeed. He's up on screen right now. This is Grincrack the Great and Grincrack's Loon Court. So these are our fun little goblin boys getting their war scrolls for AOS. And so Grincrack, so this is 190 points, and you get 7 little goblins. Okay. And Grincrack himself is effectively just a hero. Like, he's not a loon boss. He's not a wizard, despite what he looks like. He's just a little hero. And he has little hero attacks. Like, he has a modified swingy sort of Stormcast profile, right? He's got a 6-up ward save himself. Although, who cares? They're probably not going to use that very often for various and sundry reasons we'll talk about in a moment. But he also has I Dub Thee. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one other friendly Moon Clan unit within 3 inches of this unit to be dubbed If you do, until the end of that phase, if any models in that unit are slain, those models can fight before they are removed from play. So they get Death Frenzy. He just automatically Death Frenzies a unit of Moon Clan. So pretty cool. Even though I hate the rules for Death Frenzy, I hate Death Frenzy as a rule. I think it's an awful rule because it just slows the game down to an absolute crawl, as you have to calculate out kind of who can actually pile in and fight and so on and so forth and whatever. I would much rather it be that every model that's slain, like roll a die and on a 5-up you do a mortal wound. Great. Then you can just plow into them, do a bunch of damage, they roll a bunch of dice, take some damage back. Job's a good one. It's so much easier. But instead we got to do this fiddly fighting thing. But that's fine. Timing wise, it's not a good effect for AOS in general. You also get his little Loon Court. They have some weapons. It's whatever. They have to go on a quest because they're in the Loon Court. They pick an objective or a terrain feature in enemy territory. Not wholly within, just in. And if you gain control of that objective or terrain feature while this unit is contesting it, this unit completes its quest, and if they do, they get a ward of 4-up for the rest of the battle. So all your little 2-wound goblins, I should state there, all your little goblins are 2 wounds. Grincrack himself being 6 wounds. So this is actually a decent number of wounds. Like, this is 18 wounds on the unit for 190 points. And they actually they act as a bodyguard unit for Grincrack as well, giving him a 3-up. So
not bad.
So that's why he doesn't need his 6-up ward, hopefully, most of the time, because they're sort of 3-upping for him instead. So
I'm enjoying these little quest mechanics they've been adding to a number of War Scrolls. Obviously, we saw this in some of the Dark Oath with slaves, and
we talked about it with FEC, right? Like, I want to see this become a major mechanic of FEC. If any army should be going on quests, sacred charges, quests that they must fulfill, it should absolutely be the Loon Court. Or, sorry, it should absolutely be FEC.
Yeah.
I was reading the Loon Court in my eyes as I was talking. Anyways, so yeah, super cool little dudes. Not a bad deal at all for 190. Fun little unit.
Well, I've seen a number of people excited about the War Scroll. I just hadn't looked at it yet, so yeah, I was curious.
Yeah.
It's got folks interested. He has a sign of good things to come. So we had a couple of facts come out, Ogres and Slaves of Darkness.
We did. Let me go ahead and bring those up. We'll look at the FAQs real quick. Let's see. Ogres. There we go. Not a lot too surprising in here, but I do think we need to shout out to our good buddy Heywo Twitch, who got his wish. He got his wish. In his review of the Ogre book, he lamented that the Stonehorn Beast Riders and Thundertusk Beast Riders did not get both of the ranged weapons. So that is to say, you didn't get like the harpoon launcher and the chain trap, or the harpoon launcher and the blood vulture, even though there are 2 guys on that model, and you literally build the kit. They basically have to have one of those 2 things. Like, there's not other arms in the kit. Okay. And he was like, I don't understand. That's how it's modeled. And by the way, they're crappy attacks other than the blood vulture. Like, they're completely worthless. But still, it's the principle of the thing. And sure enough, guess what? There we go. We've got it done. They got their 2 attacks. All is right in the world. So
good day for the Dad Bod Grill Masters.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite moments of last week's show.
Sure.
Tom channeling Heywo's spirit with that name. Yeah, all right. So I'm sure that means, because we got that right, that the Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince has gotten his Talon attacks. That's what you're about to tell me, right?
It's so, if only. Oh, the other thing I should mention is that I do think it's fun that they included Black Powder's Buccaneers, allowing them to be, clarifying that, yes, they will become Battle Line, which is neat. That's a fun thing. So that's super cool, because that's a great model. Slaves to Darkness. Darkness. All right, so we got a lot of stuff going on here. Okay. let's just go through these. Number 1, if I choose demonhood for my dark apotheosis, i.e. I'm a hero and I become a demon prince, do I still have my allocated wounds? Nope. You're just a new, fresh demon prince, which is cool.
Yep.
All right. Very good. If my dude carrying an ensorcelled banner dies, does the banner still apply? No, obviously not. Although it can be returned through like a rally or whatever. Okay. Now we're on to your love here.
Yeah.
Both the Blasphemous Rituals ability for the Kabbalist subfaction and the Arcane Tome Universal Artifact of Power have additional effects for a hero that is already a wizard. If I pick the Kabbalist subfaction for my army, which makes all heroes that are not wizards become wizards, and I give the Arcane Tome to a hero that is not a wizard, is that hero considered to already be a wizard for the effects of either the Blasphemous Rituals ability or the Arcane Tome Artifact of Power? Answer, no to both. So we're not going to mess with timing at all here. That's what this question said to me. It was like, look, we're not messing around with timing. Were they a wizard? No, they ain't a wizard then. Call it a day. Done.
It's the right answer.
Sure.
Took a little while to get there with that question, but it is a weird one. But yeah, it's probably the right answer.
Sure.
I'm glad they clarified it. It needed clarifying.
Yeah. Can heroes that have the Eye of the Gods keyword be given the Khorne keyword if I pick the Kabbalist subfaction for my army? No. Stay out of here, Khorne. You don't get to be Khorne in the all wizard subfaction. Obviously, what lore breaker was trying this shenanigan? Mm-hmm. Shame upon you. Khorne frowns on such behavior. Let me tell you what, that is unacceptable. Okay. The slay unworthy foes, there was a change there, but I don't know what the change was. Did you catch what the change was? It lets you, like, it seems like the exact same ability.
Seems like, yeah.
It's still +1 to wound, so whatever. It was fine before. It's fine now.
If anybody in chat knows, let us know. I don't.
Yeah, if somebody knows exactly what the change is. Gareth says Khorne has lore. There's been rumors of it. I haven't played like it in a long time, but that is the rumor. And then finally, there's some new text on ascending to demonhood. Specifically how you set that up. You don't count as slain, all that sort of stuff. The demon prince has the same mark of chaos keyword the hero had. If any, it has any enhancements that the hero had. If the hero was your general, the demon prince is now your general. Any other results on the Eye of the Gods table that apply to the hero now apply to the demon prince. Okay. So what that means, Tyler.
Yeah.
I appreciate this ruling. This is a good ruling. Okay. But let's talk about what that means in in sort of the verisimilitude of the world. I got yelled at for using that word too much last week, and I don't care.
A lot of good comments on last week's video. My favorite comment, side note, of last week's video is somebody new watching this show and getting the impression that Tom and you hate each other.
Oh yeah, sure, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, which matched the impression that I had back in 2015. I'm sure many of us have gotten that. It just takes a little while.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Tom since he was like 12 years old or something. I mean,
right.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. What this means, in effect, is unless you get super lucky, right? And you're like, you roll demonhood straight away. Most of the time you will roll a couple of other game-long enhancements before you roll that one, right? Bonus to rend, something like that. Yeah? Become a wizard, whatever. So in the scope of the world, if we zoom in all the way to the point of view, what this means is that every demon prince that gets manufactured through Eye of the Gods, for the most part, is a superior model to the stock Demon Prince, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a Demon Prince with better stats. More
Right.
rend, or also a wizard, or whatever. Something. Yeah? Better ward save. Who are these failure Demon Princes that we actually add to our army that don't have any of these extra special rules and are so underwhelming?
Yeah,
Apparently,
yeah.
we've got to. The trick is, Tyler, you've
Jump
got to
through some
do
hoops.
that organic, free range Demon Prince farming. The ones
Absolutely.
you buy at the start in your list, those are like the cage raised, factory farm Demon Princes. You don't want those. Those are bad.
Mm.
Okay? You got to get that fresh, organic, farm to table experience of manufacturing your own superior Demon Princes. That's how you get the good stuff.
You're not wrong, my friend. Take what we can get. I'm not seeing my talons edition on in
No,
this
no,
back
you
here.
you will not. Um, and then the rest of the stuff. Let's see here. This stuff we don't care about. Nor this, nor this. Yep, good. The only other thing. Oh, there is one more thing we care about. Sorry. Um, the Exalted
Yeah,
Hero of Chaos, our perfect little boy. So there's three sort of things we want to talk about here.
red
The
name.
Exalted Hero of Chaos. He has to be part of a Slaves of Darkness army to roll in the Eye of Gods table. Sure, okay, of course. Like that's what we all assumed, anyways. The Iron Golems, they fixed the little loophole we pointed out of you can't normal move, run, retreat, or made a charge move. They don't get the bonus. You can't just run around
Right.
and then still have your save bonus.
Yep.
The retinue was clarified to Chaos Warriors and Chaos Chosen. So that's good. That's what I figured that was supposed to be.
No, it was that way. The main thing is that you're not able to do multiple
Another unit's
heroes.
retinue. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
it's got to
Sorry.
be a different one. Yeah.
Yep.
So sad, but that was
I mean,
obviously
that's
going
the
to
way it should be, of course. It's
get exactly.
Um, and uh, but then they clarified a little on becoming using the Zinch mark for the Demon Prince. So, but yep, good stuff. Fine, all fine, all minimal stuff, all just mostly clarifications, really, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I know some people thought we might. I mean, we're not going to see any changes on the Iron Blasters. So, they're going to want to see things shake out. And I mean, if some of these rumors are true, where maybe shooting is going to be curtailed or range damage in general in the upcoming season, an orientation around small heroes. So maybe the value of shooting will be going down in this upcoming season. Who knows? Maybe that's impacting the point value that you see on Iron Blasters right now.
Yeah, I
Perhaps.
mean, I would think that would be part of some larger points situation that will happen. Not since we're on the precipice of that, right? We're on the precipice of a larger points change, just because that goes in line with GHB and everything. Hence why we're looking back at the death of this GHB now, right? So it only makes sense that probably just do it then. I guess it's fine. We'll all put up with many much Iron Blastering until then, so it's okay. All right. Very good.
That was it. For the news,
That's
yeah.
it. That's the news. Okay. Tyler, let's talk pick of the
Yeah.
week. What do you want to share with everybody? You have multiples.
Back on point, yeah. 3 picks of the week. So good friends at Sag of Dice, Rob, Eric, Dale. They had a great review of the Slaves of Darkness Battle Tome. I'd highly recommend checking out. And then one and only Iron Gutsman, Stewart. He had top tips for getting better at AOS video that we released, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I finally had a chance to watch it this week. Some really good stuff in there. And then finally, I was watching a little bit today, Tabletop Titans. Adrian and Zach were on a team at Old Town Throwdown Teams event that Tom puts on. And yeah, they were just talking about our team events for you and their experience. Obviously, as you know, events, I've been doing a lot of research on team events over the last week here. And it was good. Yeah, just to hear their perspective. So those three, and that's it.
Very nice. For myself, I just had all the boys over for a weekend, and so I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to our friends Scott and John, Ninjon and Miniac, and their most recent episode of Trapped Under Plastic. They're talking a lot about a lot of things, as well as they're talking about some 3D printing, something probably on a lot of people's minds, of course. And, where is that technology at? And they raise a lot of concerns and problems and challenges and stuff like that I very much agree with. And so I want to shout it out and tell you to go watch that as well. The boys always deliver with the top podcast, and so go check it out. Everything mentioned is linked down in the description right now.
Yeah, very interested in hearing what they have to say about that.
Yeah, well, it's because they approach it both from like, where is the technology, but also where are the shortcomings in it and stuff like that. And I think that's, there's, and they point out one of the biggest things I think that holds it back, which is it's not like a toaster. I can't just like take it out of the box, plug it in, and put some toast in and go. There's still futzing, fiddling, work. You know what I mean? Like we've got to get to home printer actual levels here, right?
Going through that terrain project this year, that's one thing that we found out is the quality varies. Let's say in terms of 3D printing, there's a bit of a science, art, whatever to good quality, at least terrain. I'm less experienced with models, of course, but yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
All right.
So hobby, I'm still being bad at some point.
Well, hold on. We got to officially change over here. Let's talk hobby time. All right.
Yeah.
Go hobby. What are you doing?
I'm going to have to get back on this because the clock is ticking on this ridiculous commitment that I got myself locked into. See, the problem with that commitment, Vince, is it makes it hard to go ask people to work on new terrain. I haven't held up my end of the bargain. That's a real big problem that I'm confronted with right now. So I can't just ask, hey Vince, you want to, because you're just going to come back. Well, where the hell's your army? The hell's those painted? Yeah. So I'm dealing with that right now. It really sucks.
Okay. You know how you can get out from under that?
You paint some minis.
Paint your way right out of it, buddy. That's right. It is but a brush and a cup of water away. That's it. Such a simple, effective hobby we have. This is a quiet life. So, my hobby time.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get some cup drops.
You go right ahead, sir. I will talk about VinciCon 4 while we're here. So yes, I had Uncle Adam, and Sam Lenz, and Ninjon and Miniac up here over the weekend for our fourth annual VinciCon get together, and it was a great time. We painted a lot. We play tested, did some testing of the game that Adam and I are working on right now for release next year. So we got some real good play testing in. John and I played a bunch of Magic as well, because why not? But it was just a lot of hours of painting and playing and all of that. So it was a very, very fun weekend. Got a lot done. Did finish up this guy. He's done. I just didn't attach a shield yet because I was giving him a once over before I attached him. But he's the one I had showed before. He's done now. There's his little bloop bloop. There's his little shield. I'm just nervous about attaching it because once I glue it on, I can't take it off. So I wanted to let him sit, and then I was gonna look over him and make sure, okay, this is good. Put it together. But during VinciCon, I got work on another Golden Demon project a lot, which was this homeboy right here. This is the Fomeroid Crusher. And this is going to be another entry for me. And I got just a lot of progress on him. Real happy with where he's at. He's at a point where I'm ready to give him a varnish, and then we're going to work on some metallics, and that'll take a little while. But overall, real happy with where this guy's at for the most part. So, I think it was a very productive hobby weekend. Lots of Golden Demon projects getting worked. So good stuff. Can't complain. And now I'm just trying to decide, once I'm done with these two, what am I going to do for an actual fun project? Because let me tell you what, I am sick of working on Golden Demon crap. Good Lord, I am sick of it. So I want fun stuff. I'm gonna try to find something fun and relaxing and give it a quick, easy paint. So there's where my hobby time went. All very fun stuff. Okay. Well, Tyler, you ready
Yeah.
to talk about General's Handbook 2022, 23, 2022, 6-month, season 1, whatever this is. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
Forgot the pitch battles for that.
What's that?
Pitch battles. There's a pitch battles in there somewhere that you forgot. It's okay.
Yes, of course. Pitched battles. Yes. Did Scott match my painting time? Yeah, for the most part. I didn't know he was doing it until like day 2, but yeah, for the most part he was doing pretty well. He stayed painting as long as I painted, but I took it pretty easy, so he didn't have that. It wasn't that hard for him. All right. Right off the rip, let's just start with this. This is something I've seen said in the comments. I think Cinderfall said this. I think a couple of people said this. I'm going to say this now. I hate 6-month seasons. I hate them. I do not want 6-month seasons. Okay? So we clear on that point. I have never been happier that we are having a 6-month season. So that this stupid season will end.
That's the conundrum. We talked about this a couple of shows ago, right?
Yeah.
Tom, you and I. Yeah, it's a conundrum. There are a lot of folks who I think are feeling the same way. In a vacuum, you like the idea of a full year, but man, so many people I know are feeling that they're very ready. And that's been the case a number of seasons. When we've had the annual, so many of us have felt so ready to switch over at that 6-month mark or 6-8 month mark.
Yeah, but there's two different worlds here, Tyler. Okay? Because what you're expressing there is we're tired of it because we've played these battle plans a lot and we've mastered it and we're real into it and ready for it to go. Right? There's the other end, which I've seen many people commenting on in the chat, which is I hated this from the beginning. It was a total nightmare from the jump. I didn't like Galatian Veterans. I didn't like all this bounty hunter nonsense. It didn't achieve what it wanted, and it made me not want to play AOS. Those are two very different ends of the spectrum, right? Both people, though, are going to be served well by this season being relegated to the ash bin of history. So, I personally hope this will be the last, this what we're about to go into, will be the last 6-month season, and then we just stop that. Then we just go back to years. Let's just do that. But make them good. See how that would work? Just make it a good year-long thing so that the vast majority of the audience who do not get burnout because they play a game a month, all right, will be like, wow, these rules are fun and enjoyable, and I would like to keep playing this, and I can get this knowledge in my head and then hold it there stably for a year, knowing that it will be of value. It seems like a good world to live in.
Yeah, so there's some details, of course. I don't know if we want to get into it now, but in terms of what does that model exactly look like?
Yeah.
Are you saying, right, are we talking about you want to see us go back to on GHB a year? And that's that, plus some battle scrolls? That's it? So we get 12 missions a year, that's it. Hopefully they're good. Hopefully there's not just 6 that we're all bored to death of after 6 months because that's all that we play.
Sure.
Or are you talking, like what? Yeah, what exactly are you talking about? So I don't know if you want to get into that now or later, but
yeah, that. One General's Handbook. And it has 12 battle plans in it. And they're good.
They're good. Okay, so the good is the challenging part, of course.
Look, we wrote half of them are good. We're going to talk about the battle plans, Tyler. We're going to go through it blow by blow here. Because just so everybody understands, we're going to go through the original presentation review that we did and put together. Okay? I've modified this very little. Because I want to see how right we are. Unlike other shows on the internet, we will check the tapes.
Sure.
Okay? And we will show were we right or wrong on our initial takes. And that will also be telling of where, because like we had initial hot takes. Where did they fall? Right? What went wrong? Literally. And yeah, like there's no reason you can't generate 12 good battle plans. You know how I know? Because most seasons have had at least 6.
Sure.
So if we stopped cutting vertically and cut horizontally, we'd have like 24.
Oh yeah, no, that I definitely agree with that. Yeah, we have quite a collection now that's out there. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, we had 6 last year that hold up pretty well. So yeah, Savage Gains, etc., etc. All right, well, want to get into more overview, or where are we going from here?
All right. Yeah, we're gonna do a little overview. Boom. So this is the original overview. I preserved this page. Exactly. I did not change it. Okay. And what we had said back when this launched was this is a big set of moves for the General's Handbook. The underlying game is still the same. I agree with that. Okay. It's very driven by the narrative. Whatever. Sure. That's fine. It changes some fundamentals. Boy, was I under... That's an understatement. Okay. This is a new battle pack. That's just a factual statement, so that is true. And seems to want to point toward an infantry meta as opposed to last year we spent in the monster meta, though that may not be how things work out again. Yup. And overall, interesting set of rules with some very welcome quality of life changes, but some big question marks come along with this. I think I was more positive on this originally than I am now.
Yeah, you were.
Okay. Once I saw this all in action and really got it into my head. Because I didn't realize just how out of whack things like bounty hunters were going to take us, right? I was not angry enough about that at the time. And there are multiple slides in here on it talking about how big of a deal it is.
Sure.
Okay. So let's look back. Little conclusion. Now, this is a new slide, right? See what you think about my points here, Tyler. The season of infantry was very much not that. Right? Was this season about infantry for anyone except Nighthaunt? Or, yeah, I guess Nighthaunt.
In the way that they clearly intended, no. Yeah, there are exceptions beyond Nighthaunt, but in general, TLDR, no.
Agreed. Bounty hunters kept many battle line units from being viable or played at all. Just the existence of it, by the way. You know, Kual said, funny enough, nowadays I see most tournament winning armies not even taking bounty hunters. Yeah, of course, because why would you? It's a waste. Nobody takes GVs, so why would you take bounty hunters? Like, that's exactly the cycle we predicted, right? Like, we talked about second order consequences. That GVs are that bounty hunters are so good, they will hunt GVs to extinction. And then once there's nothing left to hunt, there's no point to take the thing anymore. And so you go back to a 1-drop.
1-drop, right.
Right.
Yeah, and we did see an increase, I would say. I mean, anecdotally, it feels like we saw an increase over time of Expert Conquerors, which is generally what I expected. Because the value of Expert Conquerors is less immediately obvious, less equal than the value of Bounty Hunters. I think we did see an increase of experts over time as well, in part because of what you just laid out with Bounty Hunters. In very
particular armies, I think that's true. Yes.
Yeah, in particular, not necessarily widespread, but I was thinking, like, what armies managed to still do reasonably well despite Bounty Hunters? So you've mentioned Nighthaunt. They definitely stand out. I'd say Beasts of Chaos, although Beasts of Chaos, well, yeah, they have a fair number of 4.
Let's go down the list. I brought up the Meta Watch back up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at some win rates. Okay. Beasts of Chaos has leaned largely into the non-GV related stuff. Dogers for the first part of the year, cockatrices. Now you're talking about various and sundry Zangor related things that are not necessarily GVs, right?
GVs, yeah.
Daughters is the exception, right? Though they love 1-drops. They're still outside and too strong, and their snakes are often, but not always, GVs.
Oh.
Like, you can very easily build a list where your snakes are not GVs. Lumineth, arguably, right? Even though they're at 53%, they have a lot of almost automatic GVs they're going to take in Sentinels and Wardens, but obviously Wardens have been not probably the winning choice for a while. And in the new book, I'm not sure anything about that changed. You know, go down the list, right? Who's taken a lot of GVs? Maybe Soulblight with a lot of zombie spam?
Soulblight, yeah.
Maybe?
Soulblight has been really impacted by bounty hunters. I think that's very fair to say. So, Lumineth has managed to be competitive despite bounty hunters. But yeah, like they've generally been fine. Maybe they've been impacted a little bit, bringing them down a little bit because of BH. It's part of the recipe to help bring them down a little bit. But yeah, Fire Slayers, they're
I mean,
impacted by
Caradron
bounty
easily
hunters.
dodges it, loves to go 1-drop. Maggotkin easily dodges it, loves to go low-ish drops, right? And take flying units. Big
Did
mounted flying
see,
units.
yeah, we did see fewer plague bearers certainly. Like
Sure.
I had so many people who looked at my list with plague bear, like, why the hell are you taking plague bearers? Which, well, because I just want to take plague bearers. Like, I knew they're not necessarily the optimal choice because of bounty hunters, but yeah, so they definitely were impacted in that regard. We saw fewer plague bearers with Nurgle.
Yep. Stormcast, maybe you saw like protectors as a thing. If you decided to make them GVs, but you didn't have to.
I think they were affected by bounty hunters. I, the rule that Kelly vets, Expert Conquerors and BH, I think both had an impact on Stormcast. Expert Conquerors lessening the value of Stormkeep, and bounty
Sure.
hunters lessening the value of Stormkeep, right? Because
Yep.
Stormkeep is built around Redeemer units, Liberators, Vindictors, Vanquishers now. You could potentially play in Stormkeep. But yeah, we saw very few tournament lists running Stormkeep this year. And yeah,
Yep.
Sylvaneth definitely
So,
impacted.
I mean, Nighthaunt has played into it strongly because they have the only viable. They had like the most viable expert conquerors path in the game. Fire Slayer certainly got hurt to some degree by this.
They seem to
Um,
manage it better than many. I mean, you still saw quite a few lists with Volkite Berserkers and certainly Hearthguard Berserkers, right?
sure.
Yeah, you would see some Magma spam lists, but I've seen a lot. I mean, just like Mike Vaginos over the weekend, obviously regular player on the East Coast. He just ran a nice mixed arms Slayers list. It went 4-1 with. But yeah, I've seen a ton of Fire Slayers lists running GVs. Is the
Sure.
point?
Uh, Blades of Corn. Good night. I don't even know. They're. I mean, obviously they're winning through extreme toolboxiness and their White Dwarf change. They can suffer a lot from this.
We
Sylvaneth
haven't.
could
We
largely
didn't see a
dodge
lot
it.
of. Yeah, of course Dryad, right? Dryad and Spite Revenants have been off the table for the most part because of bounty
Yep.
hunters.
Yep.
So yeah, they were definitely impacted. Blades of Corn, we did not see a lot of Bloodlighters, even though they're not terrible now, arguably.
Sure.
Bonds of Battle, etc. But stacking attacks. I would guess people don't run a lot of Bloodlighters because of BH.
Sure. Iron Jaws. It certainly kept brutes at home. It didn't hurt that, or it
Oh,
didn't help. Whatever you want to say it. I don't know. That was also mutually reinforced, I guess, is what I would say, by the change to pigs, making them just the superior choice in basically every way.
yeah.
Idneth Deepkin, it certainly kept Thralls from seeing the table. When like you look at that
Like,
book and you go, "Wow, Thralls have an incredible amount of power,"
yeah.
but bloop,
Y- Yeah, yeah, man, and you can get those guys back readily, right? You can get like 6 back readily with Soul Render or maybe Life Swarm on top. So yeah, even despite the replenishing, it really kept that down from list.
yep. I mean, Bone Splitters, Bone Reapers, Skaven, Cities, all four often have a lot of GVs as like units that they were relying on to sort of do work,
Right.
right? Excuse me. And all four suffered. to some degree. And then the rest is like Heat Knights, just don't even want to talk about it. Like, whatever, it's a trash book. So it's not like we're down in the territory of like, sure, they suffered some from GV, but they suffer far worse from having a trash book, right? So
Yeah, we saw Blitzbarb Archer spam after the point drops, and mostly that was it. And a little bit of some of the other mortal units, the nice looking mortal units, but yeah, mostly Blitzbarb Archer spam. So, yeah, going through that list, it's fair to say that the majority of armies that could be meaningfully impacted by bounty hunters were meaningfully impacted by bounty hunters. I think there are some exceptions to that rule. Yeah, I was just curious to go through it.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna do a little even deeper dive here in a minute. Okay, I think the take home is the rules overall were very complex and led to a lot of frustration. Like, that's simply it. Even understanding what GVs are. This is a GV, this is not a GV. Like, I have a good buddy who plays in our group, but he doesn't play that often. He comes over once every couple months and gets a game in. Okay? When he came over to play a game one time, it was just he and I. And he's like, I was in the car on the way over here, and I had a panic attack because I couldn't remember what Galatian veterans and bounty hunters and all this stupid crap was. And I said, you know what? Don't worry. We're just not going to use any of that. And he was like, oh, thank God. Okay, let's have fun then. And we had a fun game. Where's that starter battle pack? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. Yeah, we forgot to mention pink ores. Pink ores definitely impact. I mean,
oh, certainly kept off the table 100% by bounty hunters. Yes, because they have a ton of wounds that just evaporate under bounty hunters. And the important part is it doesn't actually matter how many bounty hunters are really out there. It's the threat of the thing, right? You get a bad draw, 2 bad draws, all of a sudden, boop, that's your weekend. You're not 4-1 and 5-0 as they blow through you. Right.
Yeah, Sean, I mean, bounty hunters was keeping pinks in check, and maybe that's an example of where it could be, it's useful. I mean, I've played against pinks with obviously they're -1 to hit, and they're 5-up ward if you can get that 5, and they're a nightmare when they've got a 5-up ward on top of what else they're doing. So yeah, we'll see how much we swing in the other direction with this new season. We don't really know what it's going to look like, obviously, but hopefully we're going to be able to find a bit of a middle ground here and not go too insane on. You wanted horde meta. All right, here's horde meta, and it's just insanity.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is high level. Now what we're going to do, Tyler. All right. Now we're going to actually go back and we're going to expose our flaws, our weaknesses, and we're going to talk about where we were right and where we were wrong, and specifically what was wrong, right? Like, where is the problem lying? We're going to go through the old Prezzo and actually break this stuff out.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about this whole 6-month thing. I don't know. We have talked a lot about this, right, over many shows, and it requires. I guess your basic point is you think that it's not too much to ask. Have an annual season where essentially everything is good. We have not 6 missions, but we have 12 missions. But historically, though, you're wrong because we've pretty much always had like 6 to 7 good missions. I think this one is actually, we can get into later, but I think this one is higher. Personally, I find this one to be a higher batting average than most of them historically. So it hasn't been reality. We haven't lived in that world where we've had 12, even remotely 12 good missions. So, and there's always been problems when it's come to the annual season pack that we've gotten.
Yes.
But anyway.
Look, here's what I'll say. The answer to this is really simple as to why it should be a year, Tyler. You ready? Because you were the outlier for wanting anything more. Okay?
Well...
And by outlier, I mean you are a part of a group that I will certainly partially count myself in as well.
Oh.
Of people who play this game a lot and go to multiple tournaments a year. Right?
Yeah.
But 90% plus of the fan base, if they played a game a month, that's a great month.
Sure.
And that pace of change is just way too high.
which is like in
Especially
my
if we're going to
mind,
carry
yeah, yeah,
anything close to the amount of rules that are in these battle packs now.
right. In my mind, I hear that. I hear an amazing argument for a casual's handbook as opposed to trying to make the general's handbook apply to almost everybody, apply to like match play writ large.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
wonder if it's a different product we're talking about here.
it very well could
I
be. Like,
yeah,
I would love as we've discussed before, I would love a perma green simple battle pack that just
yeah,
allows you to play, right? And has some great stuff in it. And that would be fine forever.
yeah.
But the percentage of your audience you're trying to sell that to is so small,
Mm,
right? I'm not sure it's worth it, or if I was them I would care.
mm-hmm.
Like, competitive players will be mostly fine, right?
Mm,
If you can do 12 good missions, that'll last you a year, right?
yeah,
Now, if you had a tournament pack that came out at the 6 month mark specifically for TOs and tournament organizers that introduced another 6 new battle packs, or sorry, 6 new
yeah.
battle plans, I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Great, right? Fine. I don't think anybody's against that,
And
right? So you
because
can
that,
cater to that audience in
yeah,
a relatively efficient way. Put it out free, right?
yeah.
Along with the points updates or something like that.
And yeah, which obviously I'm a fan of that because that's what I worked on with a bunch of other people last year
Right.
or this year, right? Like that's why we did that. We and the battle plans is the thing. I mean, as long as the other stuff, the realm rules, realm magic, realm command, blah blah blah, as long as that's decent, and you can make that work for a year. Just need potentially some more battle plans. That's
Sure.
the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, there are issues with all of that, but that we could
Yeah, yeah.
discuss. But yeah, for the most part, uh, it's like you have to serve the actual audience. The game needs to be built for the vast majority of users first, and these 6 month rules heavy, quickly rotating battle packs just aren't. They just aren't. Like, you are not this. If this is the only thing on offer, this is not aligned to the user's needs. Period.
Mhm. Martin makes a good point. Like as I was saying that this idea of like a casual's handbook and a general's handbook. Please don't partition the match play rules. I don't want an elitist player pack and a general public player pack. How do you write rules for factions accounting for both? And there's some
I don't
potential
know that
issues.
that's that much of a problem, honestly.
Mm,
But like I said, it doesn't have to be a whole pack at the same time. There's lots of different ways you could split it,
mm,
right? It could be as easy as the thing tournament players churn through is battle plans, right?
yeah.
You could have a mid-season battle plan pack that gets put out as a PDF or in White Dwarf and then also published out to the website or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. And that would be fine. Like, then the tournament players get what they want, which is just new battle plans,
Mhm.
right? You don't need to upend the rules to keep the tournament players happy every 6 months. That's already happening through new books and the meta shifting and them responding to that and
Yeah, 100%.
points balances. Like, tournament players are fine. They care deeply about already that stuff. And the quarterly changes of like points balancing and things like that, that should absolutely continue.
Right. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Yeah, that's helpful. I like that perspective.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I'm also curious in general. Yeah, just more. We'll get into this, but just hearing, I'm doing what I do. I always, keep going on tangents with you. I apologize, but I don't really. I mean, other than a few things we mentioned, I don't feel like I have a good modeling on why it seemed that a lot of people did dislike this General's Handbook. And while it kind of feels like both, like we lost a lot of players and we gained a lot of players. I don't know what that, but it seems like the game generally is in a pretty good place. It's still
Sure.
very popular. Blah blah blah. They're still getting good sales even though we had a year which we generally expected that was going to be a transition year with mostly battle tomes, not a lot of new models. I think we'll get more new models next year with Seraphon and Dawnbringer Crusades and etc. Maybe but yeah, why? I mean, is it the bounty hunters? If we talk about the bounty hunters thing, okay, that's a thing. But I don't feel like I have a good modeling on why so many people have stopped playing. I mean, we kind of wrap this around this notion of too much complexity. this edition has certainly been, I think, a big reason for many people. But anyway, that's just one thought that's been going through my head in terms of this discussion.
I think we're going to see exactly what it is. I mean, let's get into it. Boom. Special rules. Friendly battle line units that have a wounds characteristic of 4 or less and do not have mounts gain the Galatian Veterans keyword. Okay. Let's reconstruct that, Tyler. Do you remember your intro to logic, philosophy 150, and intro to symbolic logic, philosophy 250? Did you take either of these classes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Or are you familiar with this sort of a thing?
Familiar
Let's
with
reconstruct that as a logical statement, okay?
Sure.
So, good old if-then statement, right? So, if unit, okay, is X, or let's call it B, is B, battle line, and W less than equal 4, and not M mount, right? Then Galatian veteran, else not, right? Okay. So there are 3 characteristics you have to hold in your head to be able to properly identify these things. Now, for those of us who are playing regularly and thinking about this all the time, we read it a couple times, we internalized it, we moved on with our lives. It was part of our DNA. Okay? If you're coming to this casually, that is such a cluster of rules to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the rip. Why don't people like this season? Because the first sentence they read is insane. Like, what units are that in the game is a hard thing if you're a casual player to even like conceptualize the universe of what we're talking about there. And
that's fair.
Many times on this show, I have in quick conversation said something was a GV when it shouldn't have been, because it was like battle line if, and so it could have dodged it, or it had a mount and I forgot about that exception or something, right? And I play these rules all the time, like once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it still doesn't easily roll off the tongue. So like right away, we're just in a bad place. Because that's not a logical expression. The problem is the game lacks a keyword for this. Right? Like, if we were dealing with a game where any units that sort of in the background fit this characteristics or something, they had a keyword stapled on their war scroll, and it said infantry, like heroes say hero, right? And this rule was just infantry units are Galatian veterans. Totally different experience. Even though it amounts to almost the same thing. Right?
Yeah, I see what you're laying down. Yeah. It's so hard to look at this stuff when you've been immersed in this. Like,
sure.
Just like trying to think about it through the eyes of new people when you've been immersed in it for 7 years.
Ben Staffordson says, I love all these quotes, by the way. Kuhal says, casual players, WTF is a Galatian veterans keyword, Ben Staffordson. I see nothing wrong with that rule, Vince. I read it while considering getting into Sigmar and then just gravitated to Stonehorns and Mournfang. That way I can ignore all of this nonsense.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah. So, to me, this is where we went. This is like we went wrong off the rip. Right? It's too clever by half. We were lacking a keyword in the game, and we tried to like Frankenstein it together, because that's what we're trying to get at here, right? We're trying to sneak our way into having like an infantry keyword.
Yeah, it's yeah. It
By
just
the
makes me
way,
think
Hades,
of
I agree
yeah.
with you. Okay, Hades said asking for more keywords is a slippery slope because then you just end up with more keywords than rules in the war scroll. And I don't disagree with that. Down that road does end madness if you're not careful. So you got to be real
Mhm.
careful with this, right? But it is strange that they demarcated a word for characters like hero and didn't
And
demarcate those kinds of things for and like war machines, right? Like
uh,
war machine has its own keyword, monster has its own keyword, right? Like in most places they exist. But then we kind of missed one when we were creating the keywords, right?
it comes up when you're trying to refer to the game casually as well. You know, like units technically applies to hero. Units applies to everything,
Everything. Yeah.
but you don't often think intuitively as a hero being a unit. Think of a troop or an infantry as being a unit. Yeah, well, I guess we do unit icons, troops. Unit that is not leader, artillery, or behemoth in terms of core battalions. So, commander, sub-commander, troops, artillery, monster.
Sure, but
Obviously,
that's not on the keyword, that's an
it's
army
not a keyword.
construction rule. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, no, that's a good point.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Caleb said Frankenword is the doctor. You're thinking of Frankenword's battle pack. You're exactly right. I apologize. Good. Thank you for the correction. Um, so it's just a strange thing to be mixed that we tried to like sneak our way. We tried to backdoor into it, and it doesn't read well, and it's hard for people to keep their head around. Like I know it's not actually that complicated. Okay, as a point of fact, we're not talking about rocket science here. But if this game isn't something you super are invested in mentally, you know, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. All right. The Proving Grounds. Okay. Tyler, what do you think of Proving Grounds? I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna throw this over to you. How about
I mean,
Proving Grounds?
I'm the target audience, so I absolutely love it.
Okay.
Like, I
Why'd you
think
like
it
it?
is.
Tell me about why you
Uh,
liked it.
yeah, I really enjoyed Seismic Shift last year, and I like this one as much, if not more. It got to the point where there were games where you're always trying to think a turn or two ahead, right? And okay, so you look at six objectives on Won't Back Down, and you're thinking about, well, if this, if this, if this, you might have a game plan of, right, I want to make this proving ground, I want to go second in round two, then play for maybe that double in round three, and you're thinking ahead about where you want the proving ground to be at a particular
By the way,
time and
real quick,
playing.
keep talking, Tyler. In the chat, please put if you feel Proving Ground was impactful to your games or if you tended to forget Proving Ground. Everybody just throw that in the chat for me. Okay.
Well, that's
Keep going.
yeah, that's definitely problem number one for a lot of people. They forgot about it. Uh, it was something that got better at. I saw a lot of other players get better at incorporating into their strategy with the game or their in game decisions in general. So yeah, in a word, I'm a big fan of it from the standpoint of the kind of player, as a competitive tournament player.
Okay.
It's very dynamic. It's interesting. It has an impact on both strategy and tactics of a game.
Okay. Okay. I'm just watching. Uh
Completely forgot. Never used it
mhm.
once.
Both impactful and forgotten. In the garbage. Okay. Gareth, also please list your ITC ranking for correlation purposes. Yes, we're doing a very scientific study here. No doubt, Gareth. We can
Yeah.
use this.
I thought that was probably directed at me. Yeah, Gareth, I got to two. I think I got to three tournaments this year. Anyway, don't need to have an ego moment here, Vince. I'm good. I'm good.
That's very funny. All right. Here's my take on Proving Grounds, okay? It was a cute attempt to incentivize like what we're always playing with is incentivizing going second in the round. Right? That's always the thing we're playing around with. We've had lots of mechanics play around with that over time. Yeah? And the fact that most people who responded in this very non-scientific survey that we put up to our audience, right, said they forgot. Does not surprise me. It was a very forgettable thing. Do you know how much I thought about the Proving Ground in general when I played this game? Even in tournaments?
Not a whole lot.
Zero. It was 0% impactful to my decisions. Because the game board state decided everything. Right? Like, I'm playing the game board state. And sure, if there was a chance and it aligned with my general strategy, like, I often give the turn away and don't take the double, because unless I think I can just win outright that turn, right? And so it doesn't matter. Like, if I think I can win outright, you can pick anything for the Proving Ground you want. You're dead this round. Okay? Like, I'm going to win. If I don't, then neat, picking the Proving Ground is just like maybe a bonus. I mean, I was playing armies, Tyler, with basically no Galatian veterans all season.
Sure.
So all it would ever be is me picking something that I thought maybe it might make the enemy a little bit harder for them to get a hold of with whatever unit happened to be near it if it wasn't a GV, which it never was, because my opponents were also not playing GVs. That was it.
And that was one of the reasons I did find that it mattered in many of my games. So one thing on the margins that I found mattered this season, I think we had a higher percentage than ever of closer games on the scoreboard, right?
Sure.
Just the structure of it has led to this season, resulting in that compared to the past 7 years. Because of that, something like Hold More had a sizable impact in my mind, because it's one of the margin plays. So
Agreed.
if you can, Proving Ground in a lot of my games, and because somebody didn't have a GV, I was able to dictate Proving Ground to deny them Hold More, and potentially Hold 2. So I mean, it's could have been a lot more impactful. I think that's fair to say, Proving Grounds, but I did find it very meaningful and increasingly meaningful as I got better at it and I saw the people getting better at it.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, look, hey, you did go 5-0 at NashCon, and I only went 4-1. So, and I thought about
Sure.
this 0%, and you thought about this apparently a lot. So maybe this is where I went wrong. But my general feeling, okay, is who cares? It just wasn't impactful enough to the game to be worth remembering. It's not the most forgettable thing or the worst thing in here, but it's clearly quite forgettable. And the game still plays. Like, it's so outside the loop because it's such it's nowhere near the primary loop or your primary concerns when you're playing. Right?
Right.
And it's so it's so on the bubble of things I would reasonably care about in the normal course of my games. Like, what's my target priority? What do I need to stop? What plan are they trying to do? What battle tactic of theirs can I potentially counter? What is going to be my thing I need to be losing or throwing out as bait or sacrificing for the next turn's play? That's all stuff that matters. That's in the primary loop. That's what I'm thinking about. Right? How much force do I need to apply to get that particular objective under my control? Right.
That's all fair. How would you compare this to Seismic Shift last year? Just a reminder, everybody, Seismic Shift was in the third battle round, generally speaking, in the third battle round, whomever going second to pick a objective to burn, but you could not burn what we at the time had called, I think, primary objectives,
sure.
What something like
it was something like
prime
that.
objectives. Prime objectives. That's what they were called. But yeah, how do you think it compared to that? Did you find it Seismic Shift less impactful, more impactful, about the same?
I think I found it less impactful, which is probably a good thing. Seismic Shift was often a seismic shift. It certainly depended on the particulars of the battle plan. Like, in some battle plans from last season, it was straight up game winning if you controlled that.
Marking territory was
Sure.
a little bit because of that. Yeah.
So, but I still don't think we have this. Like, I got an idea. Let's just not do this anymore. right? We don't need this. There's already lots of other
probably,
incentives around this stuff because of like the command points and the general structure and stuff like that. Let's just not do this anymore. Let's just not have this.
You could safely remove it. Yeah.
Yeah. If we were trimming fat, we'd just get rid of this. Right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. Cool.
Kyle, did you make Proving Ground central to your overall strategy, or was it a mod added to it, and the latter to what degree? Yeah, it wasn't central. It was more on the checklist.
It was more Tyler overanalyzing every element of his game. And so because he is a natural overanalyzer of every single element of everything, this was also part of this is part of everything, so hence it needed to be analyzed.
Held it.
Okay. I'm here to help. I felt like cutting to the quick on that one.
Cutting to the chase, yeah.
All right. Bonds of Battle. I added a little yellow star here for you get a gold star. You're the good one. This was the good one. This is what everybody liked. Right? Oh. This was the good rule. Now, it relied on knowing what the heck a Galatian veteran was.
Sure.
Okay. Whereas, again, if we had this infantry keyword and it just said infantry gets to fight in a not stupid way, right? Everybody would be like, yay, here we go. Let's just keep this. Right? So, this is the
overwhelmingly,
good one, right?
overwhelmingly positive. For a few units that really got a lot of value out of this. Necropolis Stalkers in particular. I've played against them a lot recently, and 2 units of 9 Necropolis Stalkers absolutely love Bonds of Battle with all the other stuff going on in this game right now. So, yeah, but in general, it's fantastic, and would love to see this become built into the core of the game.
Yep. This should just be... I hope this is just a playtest for 4.0. So, 2024, folks. By the way, Cygnus had maybe the most clever burn on you I have ever seen in my entire life. I want you to read that and then reverse engineer what he just said. And that's maybe my favorite, funniest, subtle joke ever left by a commenter on this channel. So
the too many characters.
Move
over. Be right.
I'm gonna wait for this for the penny to drop on this one.
It's flying over my head at the moment.
Okay, the word I said was you overanalyze everything. Now perform the math that he instructed you to perform. While I switch the page.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yep.
You with us now?
That's pretty good. I'm with you now.
There we go.
That's pretty funny.
Who are the GVs? This was our list originally. Tyler, here we go. We're going to look at this list here. And we're going to talk about what of these units actually saw play in lists, right? And you didn't feel bad for taking. Okay? Blood clot plots. What does that mean for 2-inch weapons, though? You mean if Bonds of Battle's around? I mean, it means they're less valuable in some cases. Okay, cool. Like, fine, great. But if it makes the game that much faster, I'm not worried about a few units who have 2-inch weapons losing some value. Knock them down a few points and let's call it a day. Like, it's fine. They'll still get to fight well, too. More people will play faster and fight better, and more units will be viable. Thumbs up. We're not taking anything away from them. They still get good. They still do the good thing. So good. Okay. So here's this list, Tyler. Is there anybody on this list who saw regular competitive play? I will name a few that we could discuss. Blight Kings? Not really. They got overshadowed by Blight Lords, but maybe some. They were around.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Gutter Runners and Night Runners, certainly. And Plague Sensor Bearers, although they were often not battle line. Right? Because you don't have to make them battle line. Okay.
Chumps. Saw play.
What's that?
Hounds saw play in Blades of Corn. You'd often see Flesh Hounds, the battle line.
Sure. Yep. Doggies. I'll give you the doggies. Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly with Nighthaunt, a lot of that stuff's on that list. Like Bladegeist Revenants, once their book came out, because they became really good. Chain Rasps, because they were great expert conquerors. But again, Nighthaunt are the exceptions, right? A lot of the units in here that read as them, like almost everything on their list showed up.
Right? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What else? Troll saw some play. Yeah, Troll list.
Sure. Troll lists.
Buckeye, especially. Squig Herd saw some play. Just saw Trentinelli run 2x36 Squig Herds over the weekend. Going 4-1, I think. Oh, what else? Most of the things on this list were impacted by bounty hunters.
Yeah, right?
Overwhelming amount.
Certainly there are some on here that saw some play, either because their army could afford it or whatever, right? And yes, exactly. I mean, Nighthaunt just turned off bounty hunters with a character. Yeah, I mean, Nighthaunt not only could run EC well because they could refill, but they had the best anti bounty hunter tech, right? They never. What's bonus damage? Precious, never heard of it, right? No, you're doing one, son. Okay. Over here's the order list, by the way. That was not on here. Boy, oh boy, do all those Cities of Sigmar units basically not show up anywhere. That's a rough world.
Just realized spent like 3 hours putting this together when the book came out. Just realized what this list was. Yeah, very cool. Good to see it getting use.
You did a great job with it for all these units that nobody uses.
That nobody used. Yeah, the whole
Sentinels and
Wardens,
Wardens,
right?
Certainly Saurus Guard to guard the big Slann, but again, not as fighters, as wounds for the Slann.
It's a hilarious point, man, because the whole point of putting this together, like my original thought behind it was like, oh, let's help show everybody what are the units that are going to see more play this year. Let's make it easy.
That's when funny. In fact, you gave them a map of what not to use.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Tree Revs, obviously, being another one on the list, because they can stay completely out of the battle, and they can, be put in expert conquerors, and who cares? Like 2x5 Tree Revs, they just pop around and count as 15, and great. They're the best. We had called them as the best GV in the game, and I absolutely stand by that. Right. We talked about if you can control whether or not a unit is battle line, will be a powerful thing. We were right. Lots of people will run those potentially GV units as non-GV, as non-battle line. They'll dodge battle line just to get around it, right? Or have. If it didn't cost them too much. Like, Proving Ground seems to say, as I said here, they were hoping people would take lots of infantry. My original take was it seems like it benefits monstrous infantry more and heavy infantry. I don't think that turned out to be true. I think I was very wrong there. Right? Because those guys just ended up not being played very much. Brutes, Cryptor, Zangor, these kinds of things just didn't really see as much play. Because in the end, they overpaid for what they were in their wound to point ratio and just ended up losing out to bounty hunters. So, I was definitely wrong on that. It turns out all things on that GV list weren't actually very playable, unless there was some specific use case that allowed them to remain playable. Protectors, because they could either be GV or not, but even if they were, they had like outrageous saves. It can be like 2 up, 6 up pretty easy. That kind of thing.
Perfectly reasonable. Yeah, perfectly balanced. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the fun thing. So here's the page. Now, obviously, when you look at this page, your eyes are going to immediately draw over to the core battalions, where it says expert conquerors and bounty hunters, the two things that we've basically come to hate. Well, at least bounty hunters. But Tyler, can I remind you there are 2 other rules on this page? Gaze of Gur and overwhelming assault.
Yeah.
The realm spell's fine. That was our original read. I might have been giving it too much credit by saying it's fine. I think I cast it twice this year. So real winner
Well, of
there.
course, dude, it was a casualty of bounty hunters writ large.
Sure.
Bounty hunters cause there to be less hordes on the table, therefore that spell is going to be less relevant.
Sure.
Maybe it should have been 18 inches to begin with. I mean, 12 inches is such a short range.
It's such a short range. It should have been 18 if they wanted it to actually be useful. I don't think they understand that 12-inch spells are almost always useless when they're meant to target an enemy unit. Like,
And,
do they understand that we don't just sit around with casters, squishy casters often being 12 inches away from the enemies? It's like, I don't.
yeah.
What are you doing here, guys? 18 inches is a reasonable distance where you can actually maybe cast something. Okay. We did eventually get that FAQ, so that's good. And as I said here, the realm command is near useless or so very exceedingly rarely useful, no one will remember it. Boom! Nailed it. Tyler,
Sure.
in what percentage of games, if you had to guess,
Oh, dude.
was the realm command used?
I mean, less than 1%. I never used it. I didn't use it once this year, I don't think.
Nope.
Out of hundreds of games.
If it was used in 0.00001% of games, I would be shocked. Okay? 6 zeros on that, by the way.
Sure.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Which means that all it would have had to been used on is like 20 games. Period.
Oh.
Complete nonsense. That text. Complete nonsense. Now, the advantage is, here's the funny thing. Okay? I mean, we were right, it was a dud. But here's the funny thing about it. Who cares? When they write rules that are that obviously bad and stupid, that even a normal player will look at that and go, I have no idea what this is or how I would use it. It passes through their brain. It is water off a duck's back. Right? And it's not deleterious in any way. The actual structure of bounty hunters and actively bad things are much worse than passively bad things, is what I'm saying. If that makes sense. Which sounds obvious when I state it like that, right?
Oh.
But that's all there is. So, whatever.
Realm Command last year was also fairly. It had a little bit of impact. Last year's was, I think you could make a monster fight at the top bracket of its damage table.
Sure.
Feral
That got used.
Roar. So it got used a little bit, yeah, but it wasn't massive, but yeah. But no, yeah, this one probably had the least use of anything out of maybe any season since we started doing these realm rules things.
Yeah, I got a suggestion. Ready? Here's another one. Cut that crap. It doesn't need to be there. Like, it does not
No realm
need to exist.
command, no realms for magic.
You can keep the realm spell or not, but just make it something interesting. Okay? I don't mind a third generic spell that everybody has access to. That's fine. There's a lot of casters that end up. It'd be nice if there was another spell that they had in the clip to use, right? But just make it a fun, easy spell. It should be the realm spell should be a mystic shield or arcane bolt. In fact, simpler than arcane bolt spell. Like the realm spell should be, in simplest form, something on the complexity level of pick a unit within 18 inches. Roll a die, roll your cast roll, CV6, D3 mortal wounds. That's the level of complexity we should be at for the realm spell. Okay. Right?
I like the intent of the realm sphere magic spell, Gaze of Gur. It's just obviously the intended reality versus actual reality was a complete miss.
Sure.
If it had not been a complete miss, I think it would have been fine. It would have been used quite a bit.
No, I agree. That's why I'm saying I don't mind the realm spell. Like I said, I think the spell is a cool enough thing. Just make it not insane or useless or any of those sorts of things. That's all. That's all. I don't think that's I don't think that's really that hard, right? It shouldn't be that strange. Personal take. So, there we go.
Sure.
Yeah, by the way, I'm not saying they have to be the damage spell. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying just print a new damage spell every year. I'm saying that's the sort of general level of complexity I want on the thing, right?
Mhm.
It could be like, pick a unit. They get +1 to run and charge. That would be a cool, simple buff. It could be pick a unit. They get +1 to wound. That's a cool buff. It could be pick a unit. 6s are double taps. It could be pick a unit. 6s to hit have to be re-rolled or something. I tend to hate re-rolls on 6s, but like I could list 20 spells that are all at that level of complexity: offense, defense, utility, right? Damage, and they would all be fine.
Oh.
They would all be fine.
Definitely.
And get used, because good buffs and offense and defensive stuff gets used. Give it a simple 18-inch range, reasonable cast, it'll get used. Core battalions. This is where we talked about that. Their bonuses are massive. And I had said originally this is the death of the 1-drop. And for a while it was. Right? For a while we saw the 1-drop like precipitously drop in usage. And then slowly, as all of the fertile hunting grounds of Galatian veterans faded away, and the bounty hunters had no one else to hunt, the 1-drop... it rose again, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the core battalions they did were right in spirit, meaning that they have to have a certain level of impact with these core battalions to push against that overwhelmingly powerful pool of the 1-drop, because they've not done anything about Battle Reg. Until we
get 4th edition, we're just saddled with Battle Regiment, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So we had Hunters of the Heartland. That was the sufficiently strong push against the pull of the 1-drop last season. The other one, I can't remember what it does. It hardly ever got played. It was meaningless. So kind of a good example of the yin yang, or that idea.
Sure.
But it just, they obviously fell short in the execution of bounty hunters. A lot of people in the community have talked about half dozen different ways you could have done it differently that would have made it work. The way that they chose to do it was terrible execution.
Yep.
It was the primary reason they didn't get the intended reality they were hoping for with this entire season.
Yep.
The apparent intended reality. Yeah. So, but these things have to be impactful, right? Obviously.
Sure.
Or you're just going to have a lot of 1-drops.
Which is fine. I'm okay with it. I just think that clearly this one was too far, right? And, I talked here about how, everyone talks about, originally everybody was like, oh, this is going to make this troop great, right? This troop's great. And I even then I said my bad troop will be great, but someone else's better troop will be even better. And that was true. Like a rising tide means your bad unit is still bad. And we did see some units benefit a lot more from this stuff. Right? So, okay. Expert Conquerors. Right here we listed Night Haunt, we listed Tree Revs. I feel like we properly nailed this. Right? This was
the value of Expert Conquerors.
Yes. And by the way, I don't think EC was necessarily outside the pale of what we could see with these and be fine with.
Yeah. Yes, if you had a lot of thoughts on Expert Conquerors.
Sure.
My original take on Expert Conquerors is that, at least I think this is my original take. This is a long time ago. I thought it was going to be sneaky amazing. Like, would become more apparent over time the incredible value of Expert Conquerors. The first thought behind that was, this is a tighter scoring system than we've ever had in the game. For small margins, can make a huge impact, particularly when you're at tournaments. You get what's one of those margins? We've mentioned hold more as one of those keys. Expert Conquerors is amazing in helping you, obviously, on objective scoring, particularly when it comes to hold more. So playing Nurgle in particular this year, which was good in itself for a lot of reasons, but not right.
You were not playing you weren't playing Blight Lord spam or anything. No.
Yeah. Which more power to those who were. It's just, that's not interesting. Personally, your 10 plague bear, 2x10 plague bears, 5 blight kings, and expert conquerors were so impactful in almost every game that I played, over 24 games with Nurgle this year. Even though a lot of people, you would just think, well, those plague bearers are going to die. They had a role, kind of a couple of different roles. One, I don't care if they die. Anyway, I won't go into the whole thing with it, but long way of saying experts, yeah, I thought was amazing. And it grew in its attractiveness over time, especially as bounty hunters decreased in the meta.
Sure. Yeah, my general feeling with expert conquerors was it was super strong. Maybe in some cases a little too strong. Like I think we could have had it count as 2 per model or something like that, or more up to a max or something like that, so we didn't get those truly outrageous numbers. I think we were lucky bounty hunters were so bad. Otherwise it could have led to some really insane sort of mathematical nonsense happening.
Sure.
Like we never really saw this unleashed.
Yes.
Right?
Because like our expectation, well, an easy expectation, Soulblight was doing pretty well at the time, and we were seeing zombie spam, and you'd think, oh
Right.
god, now we're going to see 180 zombies everywhere, or 180 count as zombies all over the place, and obviously we didn't get that. Like, Soulblight got massively impacted by bounty hunters, which
Yeah, I mean, I think
Conquerors
part
in
of
check.
what kept expert conquerors in check was that bounty hunters was so bad, effectively, right? We could have had a really, I don't disagree with Chase, who says it would have been a horde meta without it. Like if bounty hunters had been, I don't know, +1 to wound or 6s to hit or double taps or something like that, right? Some other mildly inoffensive buff, right? Against GVs, then we very well might have had the horde meta. And we very well might have had these massive battles of like, okay, I count as 120 on this objective, and you count as 110.
Sure, right.
Right. That
Which
that
is
could
why,
have been
I
a world
mean,
we lived in.
yeah. Like, we haven't, I mean, in past shows, we talked about what we think would have been better directions to go with bounty hunters to keep it a little bit more in check and find. But all this is to say, like, this stuff doesn't strike me as easy to, like, magically find that middle ground between trying to execute expert conquerors and bounty hunters, at least in terms of what they decided to go with. Because, yeah, you could easily tip over in one way or another. And we tipped over one way, but we didn't the other way. But obviously, yeah, it would have been very easy. I think that was a concern many people had, including myself.
Sure. And
But
by the way, I don't think that concern was misfounded, because I think we could have easily went that direction. Right.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Bounty
was gonna
hunters.
say, I don't know if we need to, yeah, talk about what we think would have been a better approach to bounty hunters. But again, I mean, we've already talked about that in the past. There's
Yeah.
a lot of ways you could cut it that would have been fine.
It would have been
Probably
fine.
would have,
We didn't live in any of those.
yeah, and probably still would have kept. Well, it definitely would have kept. I think definitely would have kept expert conquerors in check because of the directions that other directions you would go in with bounty hunters. You would still have it be tethered in some way to galley vets. That might probably the easiest answer is to just have it be galley vet on galley vet violence.
Sure.
Or a bounty hunter has to be galley vets, right? And expert conquerors required galley vets and that seems like a pretty clean setup.
Could have been.
Anyway,
like what we said here originally was exactly correct, right? The very powerful units that can slot into this but are not themselves GV and don't risk being taken down by other bounty hunters are going to be your most potent choices. Blight Lords, Fulminators, Kurnoth, I list all the things here, right? And yep. Yep. Like, there it was. Just that easy. Mr. Pickles said, would this have killed Sons of Behemoth? You mean if EC had ruled the day, would that have made Sons just have like a trash win percentage? Very likely. Yeah, in a horde meta where every unit of 20 is counting as 60, and suddenly my ability to count as 20 doesn't really matter any. Very likely. It would have crashed their win rate into the floor. Yeah, sure. If it was GV versus GV, at least, yeah, it would have made people like have a fight with the units that theoretically we were wanting to fight with in this season. That's the one advantage.
Yeah. And absolutely, Brownie mate. I mean, he said GV bounty hunters would also have encouraged horde meta. 100%. But that's the entire, obviously, intended reality they were going
That
for.
seemed
Like,
to be
that's
the
what they
purpose of what they wanted. Yeah, exactly.
right.
I mean, for better or worse, it's what they wanted. We would be having a totally different discussion of like, was hashtag what is going on upstairs? What is going on? I can just hear dogs barking. Okay.
Dogs going crazy.
Yeah. At any rate, I mean, we would be having a different discussion about was the horde meta a good or bad idea, right?
Sure.
But in fact, there were no hordes. We were horde less. All right. Grand strats. Let's talk about these guys. Tyler, what grand strat did you take?
The one that 70% of NashCon took was the one tournament I got to. That my friend Travis and we calculated this in the car ride. Take what's theirs, of course.
Take what's theirs.
It
Yep.
was take what's theirs, followed by no place for the week, which I think was you had to kill all battle line.
Yeah, no battle line units from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then it was like a mix of show of dominance, the whole you can have a unit in the middle of the battlefield, count as being within all 4 quarters. Then there was one more that was defend what's ours. Keep all enemy units out of your territory.
If you were playing a
at the end of the
castle
game.
army. Sure.
Castle army. Yeah.
Yep.
Take what's theirs. Yeah.
But it was take what's theirs. I would, like, when I was creating army lists, I would fill in take what's theirs before as the first thing, and then only if I thought my last check was, do I think I could actually accomplish that? And then maybe I would change it, right? But like that was simply the default.
Okay. Yeah, show of dominance if you're a summoning army. Good point, Tom. Yeah.
Sure. All right, battle tactics. Let's talk about these. So here's the battle tactics. I have
real quickly, dude.
Yeah.
So obviously, Grand Strats was a miss in terms of balance or parity of
between them.
options.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. Where are you with Grand Strategies as a concept as a whole?
I like Grand Strategies as a concept, even though I wish all scoring was kept tighter. Like, I wish most of the scoring was hold 1, hold 2, hold more battle tactic, and that's basically it. Maybe there was one additional VP up optionally once per round, maybe in some battle plans. Because then I think Grand Strats would matter more. Right?
Okay. Yeah. And are you more partial to, right? Obviously, I know you can't stand book battle tactics, but are you more partial to the idea of grand strategy, book grand strategies being used?
I don't personally care about book grand strategies. They're the thing I find tolerable.
Okay, all right. I was just curious.
Yeah. Like, they're let's be honest. Even with a tighter season, Tyler, what percentage of games were decided by grand strats?
Yeah, not a whole lot. But personally,
it happened.
Totally, it happened. Like, I wish I would have kept track of the number of times. Like, I would say it happened more than I would have expected when we did the original show.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a testament to like the because there were legitimately like 6 good battle plans here, right? And I think that still what ended up happening most of the time is games were decided without grand strats. I don't know where I'd place the percentage. If you gave me like a gut instinct,
Sure.
It's probably still less than 5, like between 3 and 5% of games would have been decided by the grand strat. Maybe at the high end, like I'm being pretty presumptive there. So most of the time it doesn't matter. What that means is that like you could go the whole tournament, leave your grand strat blank, and still win. Right? I mean, theoretically, of course, lots of tournaments give points for completing your grand strat and blah 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 blah.
Bleeding
But
and
you understand what I'm
denying.
saying. You could still 5-0 is what I mean.
Sure.
And So Grand Strat I just generally find less offensive. It's less, for all the reasons we've talked about in previous shows. The battle tactics here, I was originally pretty high on. Like I said, these are much harder to accomplish, which is good. Boy, I don't think that was true. I think for the most part, these were very accomplishable. Or at least, probably 4 of them were very accomplishable. The only one battle tactic had a bonus point, which is good. That remained good. The battle tactics have few simple auto wins. Nope, there's still many auto wins here. I was totally wrong about that. And I stand behind Army Grand Strats and Battle Tactics should be banned from tournament packs. So there you go. Take that. I stick to that 6 months later. I mean, I stand behind the fact that they weren't tuned for this new world where they are harder. And by the way, I think that's only going to continue.
Yeah, so a lot of thoughts on this. So first off, yeah, this whole grand strategies, battle tactics from the books. Having played a lot of Slaves of Darkness lately, Slaves have multiple battle tactics that are quite straightforward to achieve. They've got two in particular, and two is basically the magic number in this current environment to essentially go 5-5 almost every game with Slaves of Darkness, as far as I can tell in my experience so far over the last month, right? Because you've got quite a few, as you said, sort of autos in the original list, and getting two from your book then removes your need to go after the ones that might be a little more challenging. So in the case of Slaves, like low power, where you got some way to get it rolling at the God stable. So we talked about that in our review, how that works, but generally that's pretty straightforward to do, unless maybe you're going up against something that can like auto unbind you, like Techless or something.
Sure.
Number two is I can't remember what it's called, but you got to run charge with 3 units in a turn. So that army wants to charge, all is equal. That's pretty straightforward. And now you're left with like against the odds, charge enemy lines. That's right. Like at that point, you're just 5 out of 5ing most games.
Absolutely.
Whereas playing a friendlier Stormcast army that did better than expected this year, with Thunder Buddies, Bastion, and Prime, and 10 Protectors, 10 Judicators, 2x5 Lip. Like that army has more challenge getting 5 out of 5. It's like, I'm going to have to get an eye for an eye. I'm going to have to get a head-to-head where the Judicator is going to have to kill a gut, or have to get any momentum of killing it, hold more, right? Actually have to do something. So at least anecdotally, I felt that with those two. So yeah, it's a real problem when you have battle tomes that can readily get 2 out of the 5, and then they can just pretty easily auto 5-5, 5 out of 5.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the thing I will say with this, okay, is I absolutely felt originally like these were tougher, and I was totally wrong. And that what I ended up finding was that if you used your book battle tactics, it was a simple 5 of 5 pickup without issue for almost any book.
Totally.
If you didn't, you could still easily do 3 or 4, and then maybe your last 1 to 2 were a challenge, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they named the easiest one against the odds is insulting.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just absolutely unbelievably hilarious. And you generally like eye for an eye was still a slam dunkaroonie most of the time, because you don't have to pick the unit to destroy. You just had to kill something. So it's a very hard one to counter, right? Like if they blew one of your units up, you could usually just flip that card and be like, yeah, okay, this is my trap card. Let's go. And you're going to like focus all firepower on whatever their weakest thing is and lift something. Right? And if you've got Eye, you've got Desecrate, you've got Against, and you got Barge.
Barge, yeah.
Right?
Then you're left with like...
Oh yeah, Outmuscle Gareth. No, that one was never used by me. No, forget that. That doesn't exist in my mind. That relies on Proving Ground and the enemy, and the enemy having Galatian veterans contesting it. That is like such an out there possibility. I don't even know how I would rectify that. Okay.
I would be curious for us. I don't know. There'd be a lot of work, but like I don't in my head have a good sense of all of these 3-point battle tomes that we've got, right? Where are we in terms of what percentage of these books have 2 battle tactics that are very viable, let's say. Like the Stormcast book, I know that unless you're running dragons, they're generally crap. They're not good. And you're not really...
I think
I basically never use them.
Most have 1 to 2, which is what you need. Most. and that's what you need.
Yeah, just be curious if that's true or if anybody has done that because I've never sat down and tried to do that.
Yeah, the books that really push it are the ones that have 3 autos with almost no interaction. I mean, the one of the worst offenders is Suns. Suns has like basically no autos because they all rely on a roll happening. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. All right. 2 out of 6 grand strats require you to have GV, which you could simply not choose. So nobody did. Next, moving on. So that didn't incentivize Galatian veterans any. 4 out of 8 battle tactics have to do with GV. Only 1 actually requires you to have one to do something head to head. 2 of the 4 requires you to kill enemy GV units, hence more incentive on bounty hunters and killing GVs and making GVs harder. I commented on all this originally, and all this is just true. It's just more incentives on the pile, right? And then the one of the 4 gives a bonus if and only if you have multiple GV, but you didn't need them. Like, barge through was still good even if you didn't have them as GVs, right? Like, I barged all the time and didn't care if they were GV or not. So. Then came just real quickly here, we're going to jump straight to the 3 strategies because I want to move us along. This is the 3 strategies we had picked out as being the potential strategies this season, right? Which was you go a sort of EC army with heavy GV, you win through objective domination, you have a high benefit to going second. That's what Nighthaunt pursued, right? If you've got a lot of elite troops that can deal damage, you go bounty hunters and you bring all the hammers. You minimize or control GV, take little to none. You have a high benefit to going second. You win through killing enemy GV and neutralizing through proving ground. This is how I played for most of the season, right? Only I combined that with then being a 1-drop instead of actually going bounty hunter, right? I just said, well, I can do enough damage. I don't actually need the bounty hunter buff. And then finally, shooting, which was the counterplay to both strategies. Likes going first and still happily goes 1-drop. And I think we still saw some of that around. Daughters of Cain did pretty well writing this strat.
I went through today, man. Get a sense of where were we at with shooting this year. Let's just say range damage, shooting magic. Still quite a lot. I'm looking for my list here, but there were a lot of people, a lot of armies still doing shooting.
Sure. It hasn't. It's not the boogeyman it once was. I think it is more under control. I think there is a much better balance of the rock, paper, scissors right now, for sure. But it's still around. It's still absolutely around. And by the way, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying I want shooting to go away. I like melee. I prefer melee armies. I don't prefer to sit there and shoot. But I think that it is minimized, and that's like, it should be over here in its corner. It has its space. Shooting is a thing. It's just not the thing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said at the start of the show, it's been better balanced than ever due to a number of factors. Yeah, it's still quite prevalent. So if your army has GV that can meet the criteria mentioned, resilient, refillable, mobile, congrats, expert conquest playing, sense of payment now, yeah. Elite, yeah, that all seems pretty good. Seems to have reflected, do you think that reflected reality pretty well?
I think that reflected reality pretty well. That's what Nighthaunt did. Right? They were maybe the only one who could play this strat, but they played it. A couple other armies tried their hand at this. I don't know how successful they were.
Right. Like the example of Stormkeep, like that would have been Stormkeep, but Stormkeep, nope, that got taken off the table generally. Hardly ever saw that this year. It was all Scions and Stormcast. Not a lot of armies were, trying to think what armies were able to play in that first one. There were not that many. I think Fire Slayer players could play in that space. A lot of Volkites, some Hearthguard. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else.
I mean, when Tom took his Hearthguard, he specifically made them non-battle line just so he could avoid anything like that.
To avoid it, yeah, that makes sense.
And his GV were like the Auric shooters that we would hide in the back, right?
Oh, interesting. So, what are some of the other armies? Let's pull up the list here. Order, Seraphon. Seraphon, you saw a lot of mixed.
Yeah.
Don't have the impression, that like we saw Seraphon really playing into that at all. Sylvaneth definitely not.
Nope.
Sylvaneth not exactly. KO no. IDK no. Doc, not exactly. Recently, we've been seeing some more Witch Elves. A really cool Witch Elf list with 5-0 over the weekend every winter. But Beasts of Chaos, they can.
To some degree,
That,
though, they didn't necessarily play Expert Conquerors, but they often played the
right.
same strat. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flood and hold.
Nurgle armies. Not, I mean, a lot of the main ones that you saw, it was like Beast of Nurgle spam or Fly spam. You didn't see that much in the way of like, here's my 80 Plague Bearers or whatever, 60, 80 Plague Bearers. You didn't really see that much. Skaven, no. I mean, they run, I guess Skaven runs 3x20 Clan Rats and Expert Conquerors, but like, it's not it's not a huge part necessarily of what they're doing. That's certainly not doing the damage, obviously, but I mean, it's
Sure.
part of the army, but it's not like a critical part of the army, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, a lot of these were not able to do that successfully. I don't think Soulblight would have been able to do that had it not been for bounty hunters. But yeah, it's interesting. Just kind of going through it. Even Mortec Guard were impacted quite a bit this year, I felt, by bounty hunters. So yeah, interesting.
Yep. So, I think that's where it went. All right, you ready for some battle plan look back, Tyler? You ready?
Yeah, I did. At some point, I wanted to go more into the battle tactics, like just in terms of because you have been very critical of battle tactics.
Oh, well, we'll have to. I think that's a good
we can do another
discussion for
time.
whenever we get the
Okay.
new GHB.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different design directions one could go in with battle tactics, or a la secondary objectives.
Sure.
What what's more reflective of the ideal? Because you clearly don't seem to think that this is very reflective of the ideal of where we've been.
I think the ideal would be to have, as I've said, before, as we talked about, the ideal would be to have a simplified battle pack that cuts battle tactics completely, and then I care a lot less about this. Because then I can evaluate. The problem is, Tyler, there's two axes upon which I have to consistently evaluate battle tactics, right?
Yeah.
One is where they are really good things for tournament players, and they are really good things for competitive players. And I care deeply about having interesting, interactive, counterable, difficult to achieve 60% target battle tactics, right? That's one axis I care on. The other one is battle tactics are a giant nightmare for casual players to even just wrap their head around and cause choice paralysis and freak a lot of people out by their very existence.
Yeah.
And there's no version of writing them, right, of what the rules are, where they can suddenly satisfy that user base. Right? They just aren't fit to purpose.
You think, is it a better world if we had a general handbook with the battle tactics, the secondary objectives, all the battle tactics built into the missions?
I would be fine with that. I would love to see those kinds of things be built into the missions. Yes, that would be a perfectly fine way to go. But we're not going to go there before like a 4.0.
Yeah. All right, yeah, maybe we can talk about subtype, because I mean, there's a lot of different directions you can go in. Like, I watch a lot of 40K battle reports, dude, and sometimes I just find it a little convoluted and difficult to just track.
Oh,
As like
sure.
a casual 40K viewer, right? Like, they've got these 3 different secondaries
Yep.
they're trying to do, and it's like these guys are doing, I can't remember what some of them are, but yeah. And then they've got all these different like
These
primary
guys are over here
scoring
planting
things,
flags. These guys are doing
Flags,
signaling.
yeah.
They're doing tower
Yeah.
call radio calls. Yeah.
It's just like it just feels too much. Like, if you think
Mm-hmm.
that AOS is complex and complicated, then here's 40K. Try to watch a 40K battle report and follow everything that's going on. I just can't.
Oh, I mean,
often.
there's
I
no
get
doubt we
lost.
have the simpler side of it, and thank God for that. Sure. I mean, we can say sometimes the grass isn't greener. Sometimes it is in fact just grimdark mud over there. It's terrible. Okay. Cool. Here's what we're gonna do, Tyler. Okay. We're not gonna. I have all the battle plan stuff in here that we made originally. All right. We're not gonna go through every battle plan because it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? We're just gonna say them, and then we're gonna look at what we scored them and how right or wrong were we. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Prize of Gallet. What did we score this? 10 out of 10. Best scenario in the book. Ruling? I stand behind this statement. Prize of Gallet is solid. Love it. Great.
That's fantastic. it the best in the book? I don't know if I would go there, but it's top three easily for me as well.
Wow, I'll
I
be interested to
love,
hear what your better than Price of Galays are.
sure. I love how it incentivizes slash um, often entails playing a different game that is a deeper, longer game. Number of armies, right? They are
Yep.
built, a list and armies are built to smash early, win the game by round three. This one can put a kink in that at times. I
Yep.
mean, if you could still smash your opponent off the table, but you get what I'm saying in terms of how the objective activation works, and yeah, it's really cool. I yeah, I wish we had more of these kinds of designs that incentivize deeper, longer games.
I agree. I loved this scenario. I agree with Gareth, who said it was the best on release and got better after they FAQ'd it. Yep. Like, this thing was so good. I loved it. I loved playing it when I was in a tournament and this was the next round. I was always excited. Like, yay, this
Yeah,
is going to be a fun one. It was always a fun one, right?
absolutely.
I loved this one. And by the by, this one actually, another point of why we don't need Proving Ground, because this battle plan did all the work of incentivizing you to go second in round two. It was a huge
Yeah.
incentive to go second in round two in this battle plan. Huge. Right? Because otherwise it was going to be, the point that went active was going to be their point buried in their zone.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Right?
It's gonna, yeah, and that leads to it could easily lead to a sizable point swing early in the game, where now, just in terms of that hold one, hold two, hold more, that is hold two and hold more getting turned on round two.
Yep.
If you're going second, yeah, it just had a impact on a lot of games, absolutely.
And this is my point. This is why we don't need things like Proving Ground. We can just have, if you have some battle plans that do that and they are used in tournaments, great, we did it. There it is. You know, we got there, folks. We got there because this had way more of an impact on my choice than Proving Grounds ever did or could.
And,
Okay.
all right, I
Realm
didn't say that, but in
Go ahead.
round two, it was, yeah, if you go bottom of round two, you pick your own, control it, you deny them getting hold two, and no, I guess I said that right. I just want to make sure that you deny them getting hold more as well because you're
Yeah, I mean,
controlling. Yeah. Anyway.
Price of Galley, fantastic. 10 out of 10. Stand behind in my vote. Absolutely love it. All right. Realmstone Cache. This is the explodey one for everybody out there. I know you and I know what this one is, but you know, it pop round 1, 2, it's there, and then pop, and 3, 4, 5, it goes somewhere else. Okay. Cool. I gave this a 7 out of 10. Strong, good, right? But a little bit of alpha bunkering encouragement.
Hmm.
What did you think of this one?
Yeah, to me, it's right around that 6.5, 7 mark. There are three battle plans, two of which are controversial, that I put in the I think 7 to 9, so 8 to 10. Yeah, 8 to 10. 8, 9, and 10 battle plans. I think there's 7 solid battle plans. There's 3 battle plans, one of which is this. I think are playable. So yeah, I'd probably be like
Oh, this would be in my top 7. Absolutely. I can't
top
imagine
7.
this wouldn't be in your top 7. That's crazy.
No, it's not. Yeah, yeah. So there's one that I put over it.
Sure.
I,
Nicholas saying,
when
could
we
you
talk about
define alpha bunkering? Alpha bunkering is when you build your list to go first, like as you go extremely low drops. Then you take your entire army at the top of one and you move it forward into the middle of the table, knowing you are going to get charged and you are ready for that. And you can absorb not only them charging you and fighting you one round, but actually you're set up such that you can survive sitting there for 2 rounds if they double you. And you just sit there, and then, like, if they double you, it's a great day for you because that's exactly what you've built your army to do. You picked the objective directly behind you that's also in your bunker because you would have made a little egg-shaped circle on the board, and you just sit there, and they score basically nothing, and you score everything. You have to have very particular armies capable of going like hardcore anvil to pull this off, but it's very doable by some forces.
this is my eighth favorite battle plan.
Wow. Ridiculous. Okay. Anyways, I
Mainly
stand
because
behind this one as a 7 out of
yeah,
10. I think it's one of the top ones. I played this one a bunch. I like this one. I like the explosion, switching around. I like a little bit of randomness in turn 3. You don't know where it's going to go. The downside was the sort of alpha bunkering thing in the deployment area. So,
exactly.
yep.
Yeah, I just had seen good players with lists capable of playing this mission in a certain way lead to a fair amount of skew. Say, so
Yep. Okay. Who could alpha bunker well, Nicholas? Nighthaunt would be a good example because they can just like throw up big hordes of high ward save models that will then then can be refilled and will have the little ghosts, the little cruciators amongst it, reducing all incoming damage. Like that's a great alpha bunkering army. Okay.
very biased, by obviously sort of lists that spread you out more and play more of the board. I mean, this mission is the exact opposite, right? So like
That's
that's
fair.
probably
Yeah,
part
I
of
do
it.
think
It's
it's that is the downside. It just doesn't bother me as much. Battle lines drawn. I gave it a 5 out of 10. That was too high. It's trash.
Why?
That is the there you go. Done.
Why is it trash?
The table quarters as objectives is nonsense. Especially if we are lucky we didn't live in a world where ECs became popular. Because this would have gone straight over the edge of insanity. Okay, let me total up my table quarter. I have 280 models in this table quarter.
No. Did you play mini games with this one?
Yeah, I actually did. I played this one a couple of times because it was interesting to me and I really wanted to try to crack it. I never played this at a tournament. I didn't play a single tournament that used this. But I played this at home, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 times, I guess, over the course of the year, or 6 months, sorry. And I just never liked it. It was never fun, so.
Yeah, I found this one to be the most. I was the most intrigued by this one, maybe of any of them originally, because it is a different, obviously, design signature and battle plans we've been accustomed to over the years. They had one like this in the Thondia
Sure.
narrative pack as
Yep.
well. Yeah, the community definitely hated this mission.
Yes.
That's fair to say.
Yeah,
It
this
was
is
by
like one of
far.
the lowest used battle plans. Like,
I think it
absolutely, it's
is.
way down there.
I think it is the lowest. Yeah, last time I checked, at least according to the T Sports data. The I've played it about a half dozen times and always had interesting games, I'll say.
Yeah.
Now, had to get a lot of those games were with Expert Conquerors, but it wasn't with like an absurd number of Expert Conquerors. I remember the
Oh,
original
also,
thought
don't
around
forget this thing shut off teleportation.
right. In the original point, I mean, I basically argued with Tom and you on the show. You guys really didn't like this one, and I said I
I
thought that it
really
could
hate
be.
this, yes. I was way too nice on 5 out of 10. Like, seriously, this should be a 2 out of 10.
One of my points about it was, well, a ton of armies will have their teleport turned off. Now, those armies are on a spectrum of how much do they lean into it versus how little. Some will be more impacted than others. But in those half dozen games, my opponents and I never found it that meaningful to have it be shut off because they would have like ways to drop in, like Stormcast or whatever. Now, some armies like Sylvaneth, were a little more impacted because of how they function with their teleporting. At the same time, you have some options. It's a longer discussion about why I think this one. This is the one that I disagree with the most in terms of the community writ large. I think
Okay.
this one deserved more trying out than it got.
Yeah, I think if you pulled the completely unnecessary restriction on teleporting out of this thing, it could have been more interesting because then at least we're playing with this weird objective where it becomes this sort of weird, edgy movement game trying to get into the various table quarters
that's
and
the
by
whole
hook
point,
or
right?
crook and
Yeah.
cheating to get in it or whatever could have been more interesting. But again, I just think this thing is ready for skew. Like it will just skew off very
Well,
easily.
Sure, why I mean, to me, I understand why they had the limit on teleporting because that's reducing that potential for skew when everybody's for the most part on an equal playing field. I mean, yeah, I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah. No, there's lots of armies that don't move around 20 inches easily, and then other armies that move 4. No, that's very. And there's no difference between those two armies in a
I
scenario
know,
like
I know,
this.
yeah, I know that there are dude, this game has speed all over the place.
I
Like
understand.
this idea that there's a lot of armies that are like OBR in this game, that's the exception. That's not the rule. Most armies have ways to be mobile and to build to be mobile. So I don't really buy that idea.
I don't know that you're building for this one challenge, this one scenario. You want to build the
Most
list you
armies,
build. That's a good
yeah,
list.
most armies have mobility built into them. Like if we go down the list, I bet the vast majority of armies are even OBR are going to have mobile. I mean, freaking stalkers are going 9 inches with +3 move. That's pretty mobile. They have Death Riders that have good value in terms of objective play. They don't do much in terms of combat, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's what I'll say. Maybe it's the inner Skaven player in me, but you can take a hike with that crap, okay? If you're going to build half my army book's rules around in-game teleporting, then please don't shut them off. Or give me a refund on my army rules. Like, I don't know how better to say it. Okay?
Yeah.
It's crap. I picked an army because one of the reasons I love Skaven is because I like all of the silly mobility and options that having like gnaw holes and skitter leap and those kinds of things provide to me. Okay? Because I like being able to play the clever movement game. And if that's and by the way, there's a ton of that in the book. Like a ton. Okay? It is a major sub theme of Skaven that they are teleporty.
Sure.
Right? And if that's what you're telling me, this is how this army plays, I'd really enjoy it if you don't give me a battle plan that says, don't use half your army rules. That's garbage. It's just garbage. And if writing the table quarters thing means you have to shut off half of people's army rules, I have a simple answer. Don't write table quarters as the thing. We don't need, like, it's a hat on a hat. Okay? It was, if doing this thing creates this big problem, don't do the thing. Don't bring in the lizards to eat the mice and then the whatever to eat the lizards and then the tigers, which winter will kill off. Okay? The Simpsons already taught us the right answer to this 27 years ago. And that's my issue.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the counter, at least in I get that, except that I tend to think there are a lot of armies that would have their tricks turned off as well. It's not like you're some special snowflake being Skaven that it's only impacting you. It's impacting quite a few armies.
I don't care about how it's impacting anybody else. That's not my point. I'm not.
Okay.
This isn't a statement of parity. Okay? Look, Tyler, if you kick me in the balls, if you walk into my house and kick me in the balls,
Sure.
straight up, hard as you can, okay? And then go, why are you doubled over in pain? There are people far worse injured than that. Or you say, look, 1,000 other people got kicked in the balls today. I don't care about any of that at that moment. Okay? I'm not making a statement upon parity of the meta or everybody's experiences. I'm talking about me personally. And there's going to be a lot of people who are in the same camp as me who feel the same way, where they're like, hey, how about I am having a bad time. I don't care that other armies also are or are not.
Sure.
This is bad for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so I would have to agree that you are getting kicked in the balls in that. So yeah, we're obviously having a first principle discussion.
Sure.
We may have a difference of first principles on this mission, and yeah, it'd be more. I don't know. We don't have to go on for another 30 minutes about it, but I do find it interesting because we're usually in agreement on a lot of things, and I'm
Sure.
clearly the one that's most likely in the wrong. On the wrong side of this argument, because the community has said they hated this battle plan. Not that the community, not that a lot of people are always necessarily right, but yeah, I do First, I think it's
Yeah, I mean
undervalued.
the marketplace has spoken, I suppose, would be what I would
Sure.
say there, right? Like,
Right.
yeah. I mean, if people have voted with their dollar, they have not spent dollars on this, as it were,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's
So
fair.
this one's a loser by that regard. Like,
Sure.
in the general world, we can't uh, we can't use that as the determinant factor of what's good, but still,
It's absolutely one of those that if you do have it at your tournament, by God, you need to let people know in advance.
yeah, sure. Okay,
Well in advance.
lurkers, dwellers below. Uh, Welcome to the Dwellers Below podcast. Some of our language comes at you with irresistible force. Okay, at any rate, I rated this a 1 out of 10. I stand behind that.
All right. Explain yourself.
This mission was bad. It was just bad. It
Why?
encouraged you to fight in a tiny line across the center of the board on a lengthwise deployment. Worst deployment, tiny fighting area, unreasonably ridiculous capture rules. No incentive to move forward. It's always going to lead to a scrum in the middle. Easy instant lose conditions in the third battle round. Like, I stand behind everything I said about this being bad. Like, cool concept. Somebody was like, hey, what if we did tug of war as a scenario? Like, that was a good idea. And then that was it. That was the last time a good thing happened here. People did not play this. I think this is one of the lowest. I think this might be actually the lowest played scenario.
Yeah, it's way down there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the second one that I'm clearly in the minority on in the community.
Trash.
So, first off, what degree do you think it's a true statement that this one is legitimately within the family of, what was it, the original battle plan, Taken Hold, Knife to the Heart, Blood and Glory, and Marking Territory? Which, do you know the
It
commonalities?
very much
of
is
the...
not Knife to the Heart. It is fundamentally different than Knife to the Heart.
Okay, so let's maybe say Blood and Glory, Marking Territory, which is essentially Blood and Glory, but with Seismic Shift, which runs Marking Territory. Blood and Glory is 4 objectives, 1 per quadrant, and you
Yep.
auto win when you control all 4 objectives.
Extremely different. This was their attempt to write something thematically like those, but insert rules that made it so you didn't, so that it had to upend the strategy. The problem was they flipped the coin all the way around to bad. Okay. So all the instant win-lose mechanics have always been highly dubious in the community, right? Like Knife to the Heart and all those things, people always found pretty unlikable. Like, as
What's
a
your
whole.
Marmite? They're Marmite battle plans.
There we go. Exactly. Right. The problem is because of the way the objective capturing in this one works, it isn't Knife to the Heart. With Knife to the Heart, let's go back to that because that was like the first and sort of the example of this, right? And when I think of Knife to the Heart, the interesting part about Knife to the Heart was trying to sort of navigate how much of your force were you willing to commit. Do you take the big gambit and rush him with everything? Do you try to split forces, right? Like it was a very serious sort of like play or thought experiment you had to run very quickly in your head about how much of my army can they withstand and how much of my army do I need to hold back or something like that, right? So there was some interplay there. Okay. But this one is not that. It had that's why I didn't call it an instant win scenario. I called it an instant lose scenario because of the way the objective capturing worked. It felt completely, I mean, I understand those are actually the same thing depending on whose point of view you're talking about, but it feels different. Like there was no point to ever rush them round 1. That's not how this worked. Okay. It was very different than those. And there's a lot of people in here, by the way, in the chat who are like, Peppa, what's up, buddy? Says, I straight up won't attend a tournament that uses instant win battle plans. I get that. Like, I get that feeling. Because they can just suck. Like, I personally liked Knife to the Heart, but I liked the thought experiment that it caused me to go through. But if somebody told me they hated Knife to the Heart, I was like, yeah, sure, I understand that. Like, I have no pushback on that whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was more in the camp of not liking it. The main reason I could see some potential value in those kinds of missions is Blood and Glory, Knife to the Heart, and now Lurkers Below led to a lot of minors, led to separation. I could see the perspective. One could argue that on first principles, that's a bad idea in itself. Knife to the Heart led to a lot of minors. It led to separation at many tournaments, right? You got a major, I got a minor, whatever it was, a minor victory. That separated us. So I do know many TOs over the years who have liked these missions for that reason. Again, you could argue on first principles whether that's a good idea, but that, yeah. So I could see from the perspective, like to me, Lurkers Below is along those lines. Lurkers would say most of the time is going to lead to a minor, probably even more so than these others, which is part of what makes it worse, I think. Knife to the Heart or Blood and Glory. Probably easier to get a major on those than it is this one. It's very, I think, very challenging to get a major victory on Lurkers Below. How it
Sure.
works. How many times did you play it, and what was mostly your outcomes? Most of my games were were
I
minor.
literally never. No, it's not true.
Okay,
I played this once, and I hated it, and I never played it again. That's it.
enough. Yeah.
That's it. Like, this was a 1 out of 10 for me right off the rip. I stand behind that score. I hated this mission. I can't be any more visceral than that. Like, as much as I didn't like that Battle Lines Drawn, I did play it more times.
Mm.
Okay. At least there was like something interesting going on around the board. At least I wanted to move different places and try things. This just felt like the death of anything interesting going on. What's up, Scott? All right, here we go. In the Presence of Idols, I gave this one a 6 out of 10. All right, where are you standing on this one, Tyler? Where are you standing? That was what I had originally given this. I will tell you, I think I'm probably in the same place on it. It's
What'd you give it?
fine. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Maybe I'd take that down to a 5 out of 10 just because I kind of hated some of the idle goofiness a little bit, and it did reward sniping. Two things I mentioned here originally. But I'd maybe lower my score a tad, but I think this was a perfectly viable scenario. It was fine.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, no, I liked it. This saw a lot of play in the community. I would often see this one at tournaments. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. The extra faff, extra crap that we don't need. I can't remember what it's something like reduced battle shock. Yeah, just get rid of that. You don't need that.
sure, of course. There was a lot of faffing about in this. Yes.
Yeah. But no, played this one a lot. It was one of our regular rotation. It's in my top 7. I think, yeah, it's solid. It's reflective of a fairly well-established template at this point in terms of a mission structure. The equivalent of this last year was Survival of Fittest, which was kind of middle of the road play. Like, yeah, it would often show up at tournaments. It wasn't anybody's favorite for the most part, but it would certainly see play.
Yep.
So yeah, I like it.
It's fine. It was a perfectly fine middling one. So great.
Yeah, yeah.
The Nidus Paths, I originally gave it a 6 out of 10. I stand behind my statement of it's one of the worst deployments maps ever. Ever. This deployment map is awful. Look at this.
It's
Look
so
at this
easy.
travesty.
It's
We're gonna
so
see one
easy.
worse.
So easy
I
to figure out.
Oh my god, these are so bad. These are so bad. Please do not defend this awful map. I gave it a
so
6 out of 10.
easy.
Again, yeah, I think this was fine. I played Nidus Paths a lot. I was fine with it. It was like again this showed up in tournaments, I was fine with it. Like,
Yeah.
how often did you find yourself using the path?
Almost never.
Almost never.
Yeah, it rarely came up. I mean, a lot of games you'd have to defend it, but yeah, it never really came into play. So it had some impact in terms of like you had a unit that was doing something different than it would be doing otherwise, depending on objective screening, zoning, whatever the case might be. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
you just had
yeah,
some deck chair sitters hanging out in the back, being like, "We got this, boss. Ain't no one coming through this gate."
exactly.
Woo!
Yeah, like my single Blight Lord. Yeah, at NashCon, that's what he did for this mission in round 4. I think we played this one. To me, it's another solid one. Another 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. I don't mind the map. Uh, like, I'm kind of getting a kick out of some of these disagreements. Like, you definitely get more frustrated about some of these maps than I do.
Oh, I am
It
very
seems.
focused on the deployment map. I really am. You joke about it, or you like? I don't think I'm making too much of this, by the by. Okay.
Oh man, I
We
just find it
have
like it's so easy
often
to set
not
up.
enough time at the start of a round. I value every minute of a
That's never an
round.
issue for me. I don't know what your problem is, but yeah, you can
And
keep going.
measuring out all of that nonsense
Sure.
takes time. It just does. Whereas, you know what doesn't take time? A flat line. My deployment is an 11-inch area on this side of the table. I take out the tape measure. I set a ruler there. Done. Let's go to setting up units. Look at that. Took me 5 seconds.
Sure.
Okay. It's not hard.
Seconds as opposed to 15. Yeah, those.
As opposed to going, okay, well, that's totally not true and you know it. Because I got to go 15 out from here. They got to find this spot up. Okay, mark that. Now I got to come 9 back and make the half moon. Then I got to come over here and up. Boom. Another half moon. Now I got to come up and over here and another half moon. And then so we've got this weird thing that goes like this that's actually the deployment map.
Or somebody's got the half moon as sticks on Etsy. I saw this week. I don't know who's
Sure.
doing that, but I love it. So yeah.
I picked up some of those at NashCon. Didn't make it easier. Yeah, here's what I'll say, man. It's this easy, okay? If you were in UX, if you were in UX or UI, there is no world where you would develop a single visualization where in this one the blue area is where you are not allowed to set up your troops, right? Like the blue area here that is your territory does not represent where you're allowed to set up your troops, right? Like because 9-inch half moons out of each of these is not where you can't put people there, right? Whereas it's aim there. Whereas in this one, the blue area is where I can set up my troops completely. And there is no distinction visually to the user to imply that there is any difference there.
Sure. Fair enough.
Those kinds of things matter.
Yeah.
If you want a smooth
yeah.
user experience, just saying. Okay.
Just put 9-inch sticks down at the objectives. It's fine. It's easy.
I understand. Oh, I understand. Even figuring out where those stupid things go. Okay. The Mighty and the Cunning. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Probably should be a 4 out of 10.
Should be a 1. This is, dude.
Yeah.
This mission is complete trash. This mission, it's just the.
I'm not gonna fight you on it. Let's
rule.
take it down farther. I'm with you. Like in the end, this thing, the bad points runs just made it so bad.
Yeah, it's whatever that rule. There's 2 rules. Okay, Shatter their Strength. Get rid of that, and it's a good mission. Get rid of the. I think. Do you like this map? I think the map's cool. Like 4 objectives across the middle.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's like
It's nice,
fine.
widespread. It's much different. Like when you're that line is very different than lurkers below because you're not just fighting in one place. Like it creates a long battle line. Yeah, I have no issue with the 4 objectives thing across the middle. The Shatter their Strength is what broke this and makes it terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah, the other special rule is fine. It's interesting. Pick a proving. I mean, I know you're not a huge fan of the proving ground, but that's not going to do anything harmful for the most part. Pick the same one as proving ground multiple times. Cool, whatever. Yeah, that's. But this one appropriately did not see any play.
Yeah, I mean, again,
at
it was
least-
bad because they added this thing that lets you go on points runs that were just ridiculous
It was insanity.
in
Yeah.
an otherwise completely balanced season. All right, head-on collision. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I stand behind that. Now this is a 1-2-4, so it's a little bit off of the 1-2 more. It's a 1-2-4, not 1-2 more. But I'm still willing to tolerate it. I like the 1-2-4 setup in this. I think this was a perfectly fine implementation of that. Played this one a lot. I played this one a lot. This one got a lot of play in my sort of basement. We run this one a lot, and had a good time with it. It generally provided for some interesting games.
Definitely. Yeah. Same. 7 out of 10. It's another a lot of 7 out of 10s this season. Yeah, for me with these missions. Very solid. It's part of the family of Savage Games, Border War. Going way back to the original Border War, basically the OG mission of Age of Sigmar. It's that same basic structure. It's playing less of the board, so it can benefit these more particular like armies that are castle-y that also do power projection. So I'm thinking like Zinch. Like I'm going to put up my pinks, I'm going to put up my Kronspine, and I'm going to blast you with my 18-inch zone. Zinch loves this kind of mission, right? It kind of constrains the board space, helps them constrain their cap. So yeah, I think it's really good contrast with a lot of these other missions that spread you out. Like Nida spreads you out, Oak Still Nest spreads you out. This one is a little more constrained, but also has interesting play because of the 4-point. So you kind of have to protect your back one from deep strikers, whatever the case might be. So, yeah, really good mission.
Absolutely. Won't back down. I will openly admit I didn't really play this one a lot. I gave it a 3 out of 10. I'm pretty sure I stand behind that.
So, I think this is the one. Like anecdotally, my sense has been that as more people played this mission, they came to like it
Okay.
relative to their initial impression. So certainly my initial impression was the 4+ stood out as a massive red flag. 4+ rally, because 4+ rally is red flag in general, in most cases in this game. It hardly ever had an impact. I know sometimes at a tournament, top table, players really good, looking for little advantages, it could come into play and it could create some skew. I think it's a better mission if you simply get rid of that 4+ rally rule. Just get rid of it. It's a good mission. I
Sure.
love the map.
No, that's
6
so funny
objectives.
because what we keep hitting on is oftentimes there's like the good bones of a mission here. You asked me earlier, can you write 12 good missions? Yeah, first of all, no, Keith Rogers, obviously you're going to do song quotes. Like immediately, that's why I said Tom Petty's favorite Battleplan right on there. But secondly, look at how do you write good battle plans? I'll answer your question very simply, Tyler. You ready? Stop adding a dumb rule to an otherwise good battle plan that ruins it. You're just trying to create variation when you don't need to through these extreme rules. Simple rules, like what happens here with the Galatian veteran bonus, right? Where you got like this one bonus VP if you took the thing and you had this unit within 6 inches of it, right? Whereas only when you gained control and only this, like a little variations. All the battle plans that had a rule that was just like little variation, fine. All the ones that tried to do these like big mega rules they just stapled on there, like let's give your whole army 4-up rally, or let's shut off all teleportation, or no more deep striking or ambushing. Like no, trash. Stop it.
Yeah, I feel like this is, bringing up your favorite army, so forgive me if I keep mentioning it too much, but I loved our discussion around the War Code of Battle Pack because that was one of the first principles that came out of that design process. Every mission in that battle pack has one unique thing. Mission.
Yep.
That's it. Local points, you get an extra victory point if you hold the crisscross, right? 1 and 3. Game of Heroes, you get 1 extra victory point if you meet the conditions of having a hero of 9 wounds or less within 3 inches of an object, but it doesn't stack. Yeah, so that we learned that. We didn't start out with that idea, even though it's kind of obvious when you think about it, or it should be obvious. But yeah, no, absolutely, you're right. But even with the nonsense rule layered on top, it's a fine mission, but it can create skew in some situation. There'll be a time when somebody's got, I don't know, Hearthguard, what Hearthguard Berserk's gonna really, but whatever the case might be, like aim your good unit, like I don't know, 4 fulminators, and they rally back 3 of them, right? Because they roll 3 5-ups or something.
Sure.
Whatever the case might be, but
3
yeah,
4-ups.
so,
You mean it's full? It's you're talking about when you said Hearthguard, like Hearthguard. Remember all Fire Slayers always rally on 4s anyway.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, but
they don't need the scenario rule to do this.
they don't need it. Yeah.
So bad pick, but I take your meaning.
So yeah, fulminators at the end there. Yeah.
Yeah.
As another example, but yeah.
All right. Silk Steel Nests. This one I played a heck of a lot. Okay. I gave this a 7 out of 10. I might bump that up a point. This little bravery pop thing didn't end up really mattering that much. Like I was very upset about it originally, and I still am upset about it because again, it's like again with the extra rules that we don't need to be here. You could delete this entire Scuttling Horrors dumb nonsense. Stop rolling 2d6 against bravery ever, please, as a concept. Like this whole just take some wounds when you burn an objective. Dumb, 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 dumb. Doesn't need to be there. But it's a minor thing, and honestly, I ended up having a great amount of fun with this one. It like 8 objectives is fantastic. It makes you play everywhere across the board. Had a lot of fun trading back and forth, figuring out when to burn, when to hold, how it was going to do, playing the hold 1, hold 2, hold more game while you're burning, and so on and so forth. This one ended up being incredible fun for me. This one actually moved up in my estimation. Super solid battle plan, 8 out of 10 for me after the season, as the season ends.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, nothing more to add. It's a fantastic mission. Yeah, get rid of the Scuttling Horrors.
Yeah, exactly. Just that. So how do we write 12 battle plans? We've solved the problem, GW. Stop adding that one more dumb rule. Just go through one more pass. Have a person there who just simply asks the question, does this rule need to be on this battle plan? And if the answer is no, as it most always is, erase it, and you're going to write 12 good battle plans. You got all the good bones here. You're so close. Just have employ somebody. I went to Catholic school. Just hire a nun with a ruler. They'll take care of you. Okay, you're gonna start walk. You're gonna keep typing. They'll come up, wrap them knuckles with a ruler. You'll be all set. Okay, no issues at
You
all.
went to Catholic school. You really need to watch both Midnight Mass and Warrior Nun.
I
You
watched
haven't yet
it
on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's fun. Absolutely.
That's pretty good.
And my
good.
Kathy watched Midnight Mass. It's fine. Okay.
Amazing.
Close to the chest. Oh boy, I gave it a 6 out of 10.
You're wrong. What is wrong with you?
Because I found my new. This is the worst deployment. This is truly the worst deployment.
Oh my god. Kill me. I'm gonna have to show you how to do deployments, and that's one thing I'm fast at. Deployments quickly.
I'm glad for your luck. Most of the community does not have this skill.
Great mission, great map. It's it's forcing the hand in different colors.
Sure.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with this. Like again, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I'd stand behind that number. It was fine.
6 out of 10 because of the map. Is that what you're doing? 2 points off because of the map?
At least. At least.
Oh
But yeah, it's fine. Like I don't dislike this one. I mean, again, the deployment is terrible, but once you're over that, this is a fun thing to play. Okay, Gareth says a solid 7. There we go. I have a 6. You're at an 8. Gareth is a 7. We're in the middle there. Look, the point is it's a good one, right? It comes down the side of good. I'm not disagreeing with that. So that's cool. Tracing the 9-inch around this is truly hell. This is my hell. This is where I will go. It will be just me setting up this battle plan repeatedly. Turf War.
Just put sticks down by the objectives in the center of the objectives. It's fine.
Oh my god. Turf War.
It's so
I gave it a 2
easy.
out of 10. Where are you living on this one?
Turf War, yeah. Actually, I did not play Turf War. I should have. Nobody ever had any interest. It's not
Nope, because
appropriate
yet again,
for
it's
it.
one of those ruin your allegiance abilities things.
Yeah, it's just I don't tend not to be a fan of missions that have one objective or 2 objectives. Maybe if I'd played it, and maybe it's an interesting mission if you get rid of the 2 special rules there and just try it out on 2 objectives. It's not too bad, but historically, missions with 2 or 1 objectives are not that interesting, personally.
Yeah,
rules on
historically,
some
two objective missions are pretty bad, right? Like that's just kind of a
like
rule.
can't remember. Yeah, there was one of the worst all time that had 2. Remember what the hell it was called, but it was a nightmare. It
Yeah,
was
it's
heroes
trash.
only as well. Yeah.
Yes, correct. And that's it. That's all. That's the last one. So I mean, you can see here. Let's just give this a quick count by my score. Ready? How many were
Sure.
actually valid for play? Okay. So 1 on close to the chest, 2 for silk steel nests, 3 for head on collision, 4 for the Nidus paths, 5 for in the presence of idols, but maybe that's a halfie, but we'll say 5. Realmstone Cache for 6, and Prize of Galay for 7. But like I said, I really only give a halfie to that one, hence my statement a little while back of 6.5.
Yeah.
That's my 6.5.
I think, yeah. To me,
Like,
one back
idols
down.
gets a halfway playable.
Sure. One back down. Yeah. I don't know. You should try one back down. See how you feel about it. I think it definitely
Well, I am
belongs
a
in
big Tom Petty fan.
there. Yeah. Good mission. But, cool. Well, anything else?
I think that's it. I think we got to the end. I mean, let's summary, shall we? I didn't put in a summary slide, but let's summary a little here. Okay. When we really look at it, I think what went wrong from this season was from the foundational moment. We intended this to be an infantry focused season and then promptly put in rules that made sure hordes of infantry disappeared from the game. We don't actually have an infantry keyword, so we were trying to lever this whole season on something that didn't exist in the base game rules, right? Which is always going to be challenging. We created a lot of mental load on people to remember all this crap because there's too much going on in the battle pack. Like, the battle pack needs to be slimmed. The stuff that doesn't need to be there can be cut, right? We don't need an incentive for round 2 thing. We don't need a realm command. We just don't need these things. They don't need to exist. There are plenty of compelling command abilities right now. I am happy with the command abilities I have in every army, between the basics and the ones that they generally add in the book. Like, I have an abundance of riches in command abilities I want to use.
Sure.
I don't need this, right? You've put this beautiful meal in front of me. I've got some fresh lobster over there. I've got a big juicy steak. I've got all this stuff. And then, you walk up and you bring me, like, you've got this realm command and you're throwing some kale at me. I'm not going to eat that. Get that out of here. Okay. But, like, so I think that where we went wrong was right at the jump. Where we went right is in the playtest stuff for 4th edition. Right? Keith, the answer is yeah, they are available in the app, but that's it. And I saw your statement there of, like, you don't have the app, but I think that is all the current scrolls for it. I think the FAQ has them too. The FAQ that for the GHB, I think, has all the up to date war scrolls and points in it. So you could just go pull the GHB FAQ, Keith, the PDF, and that would have them all. What I hope for next season is, let's simplify this down some. Let's stop getting to all this stuff and have something a little bit easier to wrap your head around. And for the love of all that is holy, let's hope we get good core battalions. Because what this tells me is that, boy, oh boy, does a lot of the season turn on the quality of the core battalion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems fair.
What about you?
Yeah, we also didn't even talk about the Incarnate and the impact that it had on the GHB this season.
I mean,
we had a lot of other discussion on that.
He's his whole own nightmare.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I would expect that we'll probably continue to get that, like, get one theme to the upcoming season.
I assume that will be the case. Can't wait.
I mean, yeah. A few other things I had here. I don't think we need the physical points booklet anymore. It would be nice to just get rid of that. Just do a digital PDF. I think that would be ideal with this thing. But we've talked a lot about that. What else? I think endless spells were.
I mind the book a lot less, by the way, when it's 1 a year. That's
sure.
another thing.
No,
when it's 2 a year, that's another. It's like a cost, right? So sure, but continue.
Yeah, I'm specifically referring to the points side.
Oh,
of the,
points should absolutely just be digital. Yeah, 100%. Which they've committed to making the points available digitally for free. So who cares? It's fine.
The endless spells, I think, were in the best place that they've ever been in. They, I think, finally hit a pretty good middle ground. I was going through the endless spells, and majority of them saw play this year. There was only a handful that hasn't seen much play, like Palisade, Shackles, Malevolent Maelstrom, Gravetide. Those didn't see much play, but most of them, you know, obviously we had the issue with Purple Sun, but so I mean those were in the GHB, so they came to mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Uh,
I mostly agree with that. I think there's still some adjustment that needs to happen to their thinking with endless spells. Like they're just not doing enough damage for what they're
yeah,
supposed to be. So there's still some fundamentals we've got to get right with them, but yes, they aren't. The advantages right now, there's none of them that you feel like compelled to take or that are broken. And but then there are some that are just like, man, whatever. But like, so I think we still got some work, but they're not causing an outright issue, which I'll consider a win.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, Ether Void Pendulum is a good example of that you're referring to. You
Sure.
know, it doesn't do enough damage to justify its point cost. So, uh, I mean, just to say it, every episode we seem to talk about this, but seemingly the GHB would be the right place to give us real terrain rules in
Yep.
this game.
Uh-huh.
Really
Sure would
hoping
be
that we
nice.
see that in January. It's a half page, obscuring / wildwood, impassable, and garrisonable / defensible. That's all we need, and maybe a little system on how to do it. I think that there have been a number of tournaments that have implemented this in different ways. Gareth is in the comments. He has a nice way that he's implemented it.
Yep. Great terrain
You
pack.
show up the table, and yeah, the defender sets up the train, and I believe they specify 2 pieces for defensible, 2 pieces for impassable, 2 pieces for, he calls it wildwood, but essentially obscuring.
Sure.
Wildwood to be in theme with their choice of keywords. And yeah,
He's just laughing at
I'm not really-
Kual, who said terrain rules would be cool, but what about another command ability? Oh, tell me more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I agree with you completely there. That would be a wonderful world to live in. But all right. Here we stand on the precipice. I'm sure basically January, early, like I have to imagine early January is when we see the announcement for the new GHB and what's going to be in it, right? It's going to be coming before we know it. So fingers crossed, right? Let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
I'm going to call this 6 months of wash. No, let me say it this way. I still had a lot of good games. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like it was all terrible. I had so many good games because again, the underlying game is in such a good point or such a good place. It is the shame of this to me is that this GHB was such a lodestone around the neck of what has become the most balanced meta, with the most armies having the most fun paths to victory, having the best battle tomes, right? Like balance, battle tomes, right? Everything is banging on all cylinders. And then we have this GHB that's frankly not where we want it to be. Right? And that's why it hurts, I think, a little more than otherwise I would care. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So I mean, I went to multiple tournaments under this GHB, had a fun time at them, liked playing the games. Most of the tournaments I went to just used the scenarios that I like. So I was like, yeah, good. Okay, we're playing the good scenarios, right? So, I mean, the next GHB, if the next GHB is good, if they get like 10 to 12 good battle plans, if the rules aren't, if the sort of battle pack seasonal rules aren't a nightmare of complexity, then we could have a really interesting, great time on our hands. Right?
Absolutely.
Because then we're just it's all ahead, right? Just like full steam ahead, upward and onward. So I remain very hopeful for this new GHB. I can't wait to see what's going to be in it. I really think we're primed that if it's good, this 6 months at least will be the best 6 months in AOS history.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
So we stand, Tyler, here on the precipice of greatness and glory. It is but ours if we wish it. Reach out. Take it. It's yours. Okay. So
Did we watch that movie?
Yeah,
So
good stuff.
silly.
All right. At any rate, for all of you out there, hey, how can you reach out and take glory? Easy. Just click that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. That's fantastic. It helps other people find the show, and it costs you absolutely nothing. So click the little likey button. It's so easy. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, don't forget we've got a Patreon down below focused on the hobby. You can join that, and that helps you with your review and feedback and all those kinds of things to take your next step on your hobby journey. We've got a merch store down there. The shirt probably won't arrive in time for Christmas. I don't think the shipping is... It might, but might not. Can't guarantee anything. But don't forget you have 16 days left. Or 17 days left, sorry. To show your vote for Team Tom or Team Tyler. So, you know, who will win in the Great War? Of which is the superior co-host. Decided by you, the viewers, and you're voting by buying their t-shirts. But as always, Tyler, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Had a good time. Actually, we had some disagreements, which is fun.
This was good. It's good discussion.
I've been trying to work on that this year. Find ways to disagree with you, old pain in the ass here.
It was great. For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Hit those buttons, do all the fun things, and as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.